man. You're on crack if you think that's going to happen. But I'll cut it for you anyway. Fuck, Kevin just caused more of a mess getting involved in this thing.
What the fuck did I do?
Dick. Tactical distributors. Unpossible 15 gets you 15% off.
Since I don't know shit, will you explain to me what you mean by like focal plane and what the first one is and the second one is for those of us who don't know?
I will not.
Jesus Christ.
Sure.
Those are all pretty good claps.
I'm a clapper.
It's usually a bit of a competition because somebody like fucks it up every time. All right. I don't know. Jesus, it's been a while since we've done these, Thomas. Well,
You got to ease back in.
I know, man. We're gonna ease in.
We're gonna talk about this boot.
We're gonna talk
shot
about the boot
glass thing first, though.
All right. So before introductions, so we did this. I got love for the streets, Hamp. I'm still that way. We did an event in Texas in San Antonio, and it was like an in-store event, like a retail event. And when we do those, like Ethan and I show up. We don't send like sales reps and stuff. And it's so great. Like I don't really stay engaged in a lot of the retail stuff anymore. So I love going to these events to learn. Like I see tons of guns. I get to meet lots of people. Questions directly from them, not filtered through like customer service and stuff like that. And this kid shows up and gives me this boot shot glass. He drove all the way from Arkansas somewhere to San Antonio to meet us and to shoot 8.6 and bring me this boot shot glass. And it was so awesome. The kid was so sweet. And then I was like, oh, man, that's so great. Even though you're mocking me about being old, I'm going to, I'll use that on the podcast. He's like, oh, I'll probably cry. So it's,
Get ready to cry.
Makes you feel good, man.
Mm-hmm.
I only need like a 70% approval rating. Fuck those haters.
It was kind of a dick move, though, because that guy does look like an old Jew. And he even put in there that I
think it's a bad translation of another language.
Well, no, you probably said something goofy like that on a podcast once, and he was just trying to mock you.
Well, I am getting older, but what grade were you in when I was born? Fuck you, Hamp. All right, so today, Big Pimpin' Aaron Hampton is back with us from Eotech. And Matt, I don't know. I hope y'all are doing we're doing annual reviews right now at our company, and if y'all are doing them at the same time, I'll make some comments on Aaron's.
I got another 6 months. We don't even start that until January, so I'm good.
Let's stay in touch, man.
Somebody's not doing it right because it should be a little bit more frequently.
For you, especially, you've got to be on probation. Speaking from someone with experience.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, Matt, it's Vanhaaren.
Correct.
Is that how I say it? Correct?
Yep.
That's correct. Well, man, it's good to see you.
Likewise.
So, you're Aaron's boss.
Yes.
Boss's boss.
Boss's boss.
Boss's boss's boss, actually.
Yeah. We'll forget all the layers of that, all right? Mm-hmm. So you're the guy that can make decisions that affect Aaron's life.
I can, but, we have a pretty flat organization. Our Aaron and I work together. It's not like we have to go through all those layers, right? So,
yeah, but to be more direct to your dickish point that you were moving towards, there are several Girl Scouts with high cookie sale rates that could affect my income. So, yeah, I'm easily shat upon. I'm that low level. I'm like the guys behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as much shit as Aaron and I.
You just call me low level.
You're always number one in my heart, Thomas.
But I put us together.
You maybe hit the bottom of the org chart, but you're number one in my heart, baby. Well, that's an interesting point. As much shit as we give each other, y'all are lucky to have Aaron Hampton.
We are. The truth of the matter is, guys like Aaron make all the smart decisions in the organization. It really is true.
That's a leader right there.
Yeah.
That's a leader comment. Now,
every time I get
Aaron's like, I need my pay to reflect what you said.
Well, now I'm wishing we were doing reviews right now.
Right, I know. Every time I get a harebrained idea, I give him a text, give him a call, email. What do you think about this? And he's nice enough not to tell me it's stupid, but I get from what he's telling me when it is. And if it's a halfway decent idea, he helps me sort of craft it into a better idea.
And if it's a harebrained idea, he handles you with the kid gloves.
He does.
Like,
He does. He makes me
oh,
feel
that's
good
sweet,
at the end
honey.
of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, all right. So what's Aaron? What is your title there now?
So I'm senior product manager.
Product manager.
And my focus is on outside of our core categories, which are holographic weapon sight and magnified optics now. I still work on both of those, but my focus is now on night vision, thermal, and we have a new division that we're calling Eotech Gov, which is pure digital night vision. So it's kind of the next step in night vision. So
that'll be the future.
That is definitely the future.
And Matt, you're the CO.
Correct.
All right. So you guys are no longer L3. We touched on that in the last podcast, I believe. And for those that haven't watched it, I did a podcast with Aaron and JB from your organization, I don't know, a year ago or so.
Yeah, right around a year ago.
And, I've said it to you guys, and I've said it on other podcasts. I learned more on that podcast, and probably from a technical perspective, more than I've learned on any other podcast I've had. Like it's a you guys shared all kinds of information. It was brilliant. It's simple. It shows. And we were talking last night, like a problem I have with you guys is once I've learned from Aaron, like the advantages and what is really great about holographic sights is why you guys don't promote that more and explain it more to the consumers. And I don't know, we talked about maybe that was in the past that was just you guys focused on the government contracts and that's what sells stuff. But I don't know, I think in the last few years with social media and then, also the really like every time your shit goes beep right in the middle of stuff, you get on me about turning my phone off and then you've never turned that off. Can't you mute it? So, God damn it. You fucked my flow up.
And it was a good flow.
Oh, it was so good.
It was.
But when I learned, you guys taught me so much on that podcast that I didn't understand. Because, to me, I would look at it like a basic consumer. And now I think we even have a lot more basic consumers because, the commercial firearms industry has just exploded the last 10 years or so. And, and we're about to go through another election cycle. So, we're going to have those ups and downs through that process. And it seems like it creates a lot more ups traditionally. Yeah. At least at this point. Anyway, so talking about that, the holographic sights, like, okay, well, Eotech, the battery doesn't last quite as long, but now the battery life on all of them are so long, it's stupid. Like, change your batteries out once a year. It's $3. And then the advantages of it over just a dot sight, and more so, like, I understood early on when I started working with some of the special operations groups 12 or 15 years ago, and where they were working with you guys on some of the new optics, and it's like, why would you use that? Because the battery life doesn't last as long, and it's heavier than like a micro aim point. And then it's like, oh, target acquisition. Like every guy in the unit is faster through this course with this optic. Like
Absolutely.
There's a reason, I guess, that fighters or whatever use them. Which you guys did market that to some degree back in the day.
We should have. We talked about it, but we never put together, a proper campaign. But also a lot of that had to do with L3. And then L3 Harris's focus on, it wasn't about innovation, right? It was about, we had this halo effect for sales from the government contracts. Yeah. So just run with that, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that was, that was the hard thing to tolerate, which is why I was only there for a short time. Yeah. Because, what is product development if you're not developing any products?
I mean, Aaron Hampton, you're a racehorse, and it's just hard to hold one back.
damn it.
No, I know. I mean, because we're talking about that, working with large organizations or working with private equity and then small. I mean, there's pros and cons to each. But where I find big business like that, and that's easy for me to say because I'm probably more on the creative and entrepreneurial side and don't like taking orders. It's you gotta. For me, I would be so dissatisfied with life if all we did was worry about a government contract, and that's what made me all my money, and we're just sustaining that.
Right.
Like I would rather be a barista or whatever at Starbucks. That has no interest to me, but. That's my personality, like one extreme. But dude, what's your background? Where are you from? How'd you get chosen for this? What have you been through?
I grew up in Virginia,
Yeah.
military family, and went to college, spent about 2-3 years in college, dropped out, decided I wanted to be in the tech business. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. First job I worked in was a horrible job. I started as an entry-level sales guy in a datacom distributor company. And
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. First day there, they handed me a stack of paper this big and said, call every single government P card holder and ask them if they want to buy a cable. So that was a start. It ended with a guy standing up and peeing all over a desk and ripping up the office and didn't get fired.
Is that how you and Aaron met?
Yeah, that's how Aaron and I met, actually. Glad you picked that up.
So they drove someone to that point.
Yep, absolutely. And so I left there. I went to Honeywell, spent a couple years there.
Yeah. Another big company.
And this time on security technology side.
Yeah.
A couple years there, went to a company called SST that was a mid-sized company, but then got bought by Tyco, so another big company. And spent a few years there, and sort of the big kind of career change for me was I moved to Hawaii. I had a friend that had lived there after college. He went out there for a summer, just never came back. He called me up and said, hey, why don't you come out and visit me? It's been 7 years. So I went out there to visit him. And out of curiosity, I was looking on the internet, things to do while I'm out there. I ran across this jobs site and called the company up and said, are you still hiring? And they said, no, but why don't you come have lunch with us?
Oh.
So had lunch with them. Right there, offered me a job. A month later, I was out there living in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you, around 30?
I was in my late 20s. Yeah.
So yeah. That's an interesting time, I think, for a dude. You're out of college on your own. You spent some time doing, having a career and this is what it is.
Learning what you hate.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, which, men, I think we're probably slow learners typically compared to women in a lot of ways, so it takes us a little longer to sort that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting company. They were doing some just pretty run-of-the-mill security technology projects, but this was 2004. So a lot of military work coming out of Hawaii, obviously, with Pacific Command there, and had just gotten their first little contract with the Army. I came in, had a little bit of prior experience, and kind of took over that part of the business. And within 6 months or so, I was a general manager of the company, and we started building tactical surveillance and reconnaissance systems for special operations, NSA folks like that.
Yeah.
And so really cool projects, learned a lot about it, got really into electro-optics, night vision technology, and all the tactical comms that made all these systems work together.
Yeah, so even then.
Yep. So did that for a few years and went back to a big business. SAIC was one of our partners, reached out to me, went and worked with them, spent about a year still in Hawaii, and then moved back to Virginia and took over a business that they had acquired that exclusively worked in the intelligence community doing similar type of technologies. Took that business, grew it to a pretty big organization. So was there about 7 years and burned myself out just, dealing with all the corporate bureaucracy, working, people say, I work 100 hours a week, and they really don't. I was pretty close to that. And so I said to my boss after 7 years, I need another job. I need to do something different. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do corporate development because it doesn't seem like those guys do anything. So, true story. So I went up and did that for a year, did, some projects here and there. And then I went to, I got an opportunity to interview for a job in Michigan. And it was interesting to me because my family is actually from Michigan, spent summers up there. I thought it was beautiful, all the sort of, nostalgia with that. Took that job, and it was a machine vision company that were also kind of, focused in security applications, but we knew pretty, right away that it just wasn't going to thrive in that space. So we decided to go after oil and gas. And so we were doing using thermal technology.
Is this kind of the first change from you for like that focus from government or defense stuff to to private industry to oil and gas?
Yeah, it really was. I always did a little bit of commercial on the side, but it was sort of a big move. But still underlying electro-optics, machine vision, analytics, software, and communication systems that tie it all together. So we were doing remote monitoring, we were using FLIR cameras. They're used for gas detection. We were writing algorithms on them and doing automated gas detection and things like that, and doing some interesting things, kind of remote monitoring of gas, oil and gas assets. So did that for about 4 years, was the CEO of that company, had a board of directors that was full of Wall Street types, 3 or 4 guys that all went to Harvard Business School together.
Oh, yeah, they know everything.
They know everything. Maybe the worst 4 years of my life. And at the same time, I was starting to have a family and decided I wanted to move on from there. And so I got a job at a company that we were partnered with and doing commercial work. And it was the one company that was still doing security work with our technology, and they were doing it for AWS. So I came over to help manage that. And the guys that are the majority owners of Eotech now, which I'll talk a little bit about, had just bought that company.
Yeah.
And within a few months, they found out that the entrepreneur that had started that business had done a good job of getting some great customers. He was doing business with General Motors, with AWS, UPS, folks like that, but was horrible at running the business, and they were in financial dire straits. So they moved me up, asked me to take on that business, and then they subsequently acquired a business called Elite Defense. Elite Defense was owned and run by a gentleman named Dennis Finnegan, who's the president of international business now at Eotech and government. And he had been at Eotech running their international business. He left, started a rep firm to sell soldier systems technologies for American-based companies in the international market, to include Eotech. So I was helping them with that business. And we also had Dean Lobig, who is former Eotech, was at Elite and is now back at Eotech as our CTO and COO of the business, and holography expert. And so he was developing his own holographic weapon sight to compete with Eotech. So my job was to try to find out a way for us to manufacture that. And Eotech went up for sale. So Chris Kuza, who's principal of Kuza Capital, majority owned company, called me up one day and said, let's go do this. Yeah. And so made the call to investment banker, and here we are.
So you're part of the acquisition process from L3. So it's not just like where, when I sold my old company, Advanced Armament, private equity, the first year was fucking great because they left us alone, and then they private equitied the shit out of us. And, you see, and now Remington, what are they? Like, all that was just sold at bankruptcy. Like, I offered them, they called me a year before it was all done, and they wanted me to buy the company back, and they wanted $2 million for it, my old company, and they had paid me about $22 million. And I offered them $1 million for it, and they didn't take it, and then it was sold for $350,000 or something in bankruptcy to Palmetto State.
Yep.
And what a shit show and a bunch of assholes they were. Yeah. But it's not always the thing. Like the largest investor in our company, other than myself, is from private equity, and he is the exact opposite. Although you would look at him, look at his background, and think, oh, there's no way. But he's the most helpful. He cares about the long-term growth and productivity of the company and us creating value, but he does not. He's never asking me to cut costs. He's never asking me not to be an entrepreneur. He's never criticizing me about the way, he's like, we knew what we were getting into with you. Like, it's you're the value of the company. That was kind of his attitude.
Yeah, a very similar situation. So a little bit of background on those guys. Chris Kuza, his father was an immigrant, came to America, and from nothing built a real estate empire that's worth near $1 billion. And Chris was the only son, and his father said to him, hey, we want you to go to college, get a law degree, do something different. So he did that. And his father owned half the business, and then he has some uncles that have the other side of the business. And his father passed away in his 50s. Chris was in his early 30s. And so Chris was thrust into his family business and stopped practicing law actively. And he partnered with a gentleman by the name Joe Caradonna. And Joe, he knew from growing up, they played Little League hockey together.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe was a real estate developer. And when the real estate crash happened, they bought and sold debt, made a lot of money, funded their own real estate business. So Chris has his family business, Cusa Capital, is part of sort of the family office associated with that. Excuse me. And then Joe and Chris started their own real estate business, which is massive in itself. They realized after that sort of real estate crash that they really needed to diversify and wanted to get in sort of in defense industrial base, really liked firearms and liked that part of the business, so decided they wanted to do that. And the way that they operate is a family office. It's not like a private equity entity.
Well,
and
yeah, by what you're saying, because of most of the private equity guys I've encountered, like that was always their journey. You know, that was their path. Was college, finance, private equity. That was always the thing. So I see what you're saying. It's a different thing. A family business.
And the family part is the most important part of it. Every time Chris calls me on the phone, the first 15 minutes are, "How are your kids doing?" And it's not just I'm asking to be polite. It's a 15-minute conversation about the details of my family and how things are going. And whenever we go into a business deal, he says, is this going to change your life for the better or the worse? I don't care how much money we're going to make. If it changes our lives for the worse, if it is a drag on us, we're not going to do it. Right. And that's how we operate. He gives us a lot of freedom and autonomy to do that. Joe, his partner, and I basically work on everything that the business is operating towards in terms of financial and organizational constructs. We're just at the hip and we're communicating every single day. Yeah. So it's not like this formal process where I'm sending these reports and doing those kind of things with those guys.
I mean, I'm still the majority owner of my company, but that's very similar to my situation. Like, I'm not obligated to provide any reports except maybe an annual basic thing to them. Mm-hmm. But, we'll go months without like a board call. And then, and sometimes, I appreciate, this is the first time, my first deal with Advanced Armament, they were not helpful at all. Well, they just took money out of our bank account. Mm-hmm. And this one, it's interesting because there's 4 people on the board, including myself, and the other 3 guys are the 3 largest investors other than myself, and they've been way more successful in business. And they're all a few years older than me and just have a different experience. And for them, like one was just in finance, one develops computer software, and then one was private equity, who they specialize in primarily food services and stuff. Mm-hmm. And and he employed 750,000 people before he bought Dunkin' Donuts. So like the problems and the scale of things that they've had to handle. Mm-hmm. So it's really not, because it's like when it's your life and you're in this little fishbowl and you have something that happens and, oh, God, I got to make a decision. It's $1 million. You talk to them, it grounds you pretty, because, we had to deal with that, but it was like a $4 billion problem. Yeah. And, it puts it in perspective. And, it's hard to beat. We talked about it, like experience. Like, to me, you want to hire a product guy that can go and, do some surveys of the industry and bullshit like that. That's great. But you can't, and not to give Aaron too big of a head, but he's been involved at a pretty elite level within the industry when it comes to small arms for so long. Like, you can't buy that experience. And I see it with my company, because I'm the second oldest person at my company, and I was the oldest person for 2 days. But we got the other Kevin, and it's basically,
and now you know why he was hired.
Thank God for him. Well, it's like he's basically retired, but wanted, I think, early retirement, but wanted something to do rather than sit home and have to do all the honeydew stuff all the time. Yeah, and he's like the happiest guy at the whole place. But I've always loved having the energy of young people and giving them an opportunity and challenging them to thrive. But I also have been self-motivated my entire life. And as you realize, this is almost my 30th year in the industry, and I'm starting to learn a few things about people finally. And it's like, well, not everybody's motivated the same way.
No.
And what we see right now and what we're looking for in certain areas of the company, because we have we're growing tremendously right now, is, in some key positions where we're weak, in certain areas of the company, some people with experience, been there, done that, to lead younger people that I see one day leading the company in that area. But, they don't know what they don't know. Like,
Right.
If you got 4 years experience and this dude's got 34, it's like he can probably work a half hour a day and get just as much done in a lot of areas.
Sure.
But it's exciting to me, like Eotech, cool product. You see basically one fucking product for a long time that is different than a lot of stuff on the market. And then you guys do like magnified optics. That 5 to 25, that was awesome out of the gate. Still a wonderful optic.
Still love it.
The new 1 to 10 you guys are doing. Woo! Because I tried like a prototype 1 to 8, didn't love it as much. The 1 to 10 I love. Jay got one at SHOT Show, and I think
Why didn't you love it?
Well, at the higher magnifications, and two, my eyes are not what they were when I was 40, but it wasn't clear around the edges to me. And so the 1 to 10 does not have that. Yeah. And a 1 to 10 is such a wonderful range for practical hunting. And I don't know a lot of people that hunt more than me at this point in my life.
No.
And that shoot as many animals because of, not just my bloodthirst, but primarily we're developing ammo or stuff like that. Yeah. But so it's important to me because as my eyes aren't as good now, and I probably need to have some corrective action, like some surgical stuff going on here pretty soon. But, low light is harder for me.
Yeah.
And then you get spoiled. Like I love Swarovski. I love their glass. But, they don't, you can't dial as far with that. I mean, there's just a lot of things to where that's just strictly for a traditional hunting perspective. And
right.
As you know, we've talked about it. They're just slow. It's like Europeans with a lot of things, slow to respond to trends or, like kind of new innovations. Right. They're always the last to do it.
Yeah, and they do it well when they do it.
Oh, their optics are great.
It's fantastic, and they've got Swaro is probably got the market cornered on great glass, right? And then excellent prescriptions and great coatings, and so quite honestly, we're following, right? But we're doing a great job at following, and
yeah.
We've talked deeply about that 1 to 8, and I think one of the reasons why it didn't work out as well for you as it does for a lot of people. Second focal plane.
Yeah.
And you're really a first focal plane kind of guy. And you don't need that daylight bright dot. We had to do a lot to be able to put that in and make something for the competitive shooters, but also a good truck gun and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
it's hard
there's compromises.
It is. It's hard to get everything. Like
right.
I love their new Z8 turrets, the snap-on and all. But then I also, I hunt in the mountains in Africa. Like, that thing's not that durable in
right.
that regard. So it's always a balance
sure.
of those things. But with this 1 to 10, it's an optic. Because we're actually putting it on a collab that we're doing with Field Ethos, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that was actually picked by them. And so that's pretty cool. And all those guys, I was just with them on a hunt. They all hunt like I do, almost. But they hunt a lot. And that was one that we all loved. There's features in that optic that the Swarovski doesn't have. And that'll probably be an optic that I use on this hunt. I'll leave this week to go to Africa.
Hopefully you got it from Jay.
Yeah. Remember we busted him at SHOT Show? So you guys gave it to him and he didn't say anything to me. And so we see him a couple hours later at SHOT Show and he's standing there with it tucked under his arm. And he's like, "What's up, guys?" I was like, "What do you have?" But yeah, we got it. But I think it was not for lack of Jay trying. It was just bad timing. I happened to walk upon him when he was holding it. Yeah, so that's a great optic. So you guys are doing great things there. So you started diversifying there. You guys have been successful with those. You have the 5 to 25. If anybody likes, especially target shooting, you got a small compact gun or you want one or, a lot of details that I think a lot of companies miss. Even things that might seem stupid to a novice shooter, but just the clicks with the turret are so definite. My calloused old ass hands can feel every click. I don't have to look at it. I know what I'm dialing. The short length, so you can use it and use some inline night vision in front of it. That 25 power, unless it's the middle of summer. You're shooting targets especially. 25 power is incredible. The 1 to 10 I love. And so now you guys, so to jump ahead of that, so now it's exciting because you guys aren't acting like a big company. You're diversifying more. So you got all these great new products that are in a different category. So, what was the decision and what the heck are you guys doing, and when will we see them, not just defense-wise, but commercially?
So we're doing a lot of brand new stuff, right, that we'll talk about shortly. But it's also important to note that we're in the final phases of launching a completely different magnified optics line.
Oh, yeah.
That is more geared toward the sportsman and the hunter type. By no means a low price, right? But a ruggedization level lower than a Voodoo. Something that's more. So it's not going to be your 3 to 9.
Okay.
Right?
Wait. So to put it in perspective, like what's a 5 to 25 retail for with like whatever reticle?
I guess for us, it's hard to do it as a price point because all of our optics punch well above their price point. But
street price or whatever.
Our 5 to 25 super short is $19.99 with our reticle, and then $21.99 if you go with one of the Horus reticles.
So about like a Leupold Mark V.
Yes,
that price point.
That price point, but at a higher magnification level than
5 to 25, so 3.6 to 18.
Yeah,
and
it's smaller than theirs.
Yeah. So people haven't seen this. It's a great like for me for hunting. I don't need 25 power.
Right.
Typically, I won't use it, but most of my time, even as much as I hunt, like I'm at the range shooting, testing stuff. New ammo, new barrels, changes to the guns, whatever. And as you know, like we're shooting static target, like that magnification.
Oh yeah.
Until it's 100 degrees and you got to back off because of mirage. If
I'm
I got
a power whore.
Oh yeah.
More mag the better.
If I'm trying to shoot groups, like if I got 42 power, I'm using it. So 25 is great for that. So that's a great value. Those are the two scopes that I would recommend to someone that, unless somebody's, I don't even know. Price-wise, like what I would prefer to have. Because a lot of the stuff, it seems like, especially in something, if you think about like a Schmidt and Bender or something, or even Night Force, a lot of the stuff that's included in those optics that add weight and length and cost aren't important unless you're writing that for like you're building it to meet a government specification.
Yeah, and even that is an overblown untruth. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we'll take the Pepsi challenge as far as ruggedness goes with all of them. Now you can break anything, Soldier break anvil with banana if you give him time, right? So anything can be broken. The question is, will it survive worst case use scenario? If you run it over with your Raptor, hopefully it broke, right? Like, I don't even know if I want that optic because when I build it, it's going to be heavy as hell.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Well, I'll say I love Night Force optics, but I generally don't use them because they're too heavy. And same thing with Schmidt.
Yeah, and, if you science the shit out of it and you engineer it, you can make it every bit as rugged as it will ever need to be and still be lightweight. Yeah. So I think a lot of that always comes off of just, I don't want to say lazy, but it's a combination of being lazy to get it to market and consumer acceptance. Yeah, it weighs a pound more, but it's super rugged. You can drop it out of a helicopter and it'll still freaking fire.
Well, I mean, you pick up that gun. That's why the Honey Badger is so expensive, because it's a pound lighter than anything that competes with it. And to take a pound out of something that weighs 5 pounds, like you got to take it out of every part. It's a lot of engineering. It's a lot of thought that goes into it. It's way easier to make it a pound heavier.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's basically 50% of the cost is that last extra 10 to 20% if you want the best product.
But with firearms, it's a strange dichotomy in our consumer base, because they'll buy a firearm they're willing to spend for as light as possible. But then they go to optics, especially magnified optics, and the benchmark is U.S. optics, right? they were the heaviest scope you could ever get, 15 years ago. And they just said, well, it's because it's rugged. It's you'll never break it.
This sounds like the silencer industry. Yeah. It's like, well, that's a lack of engineering, really.
Exactly.
And what is the requirement? Like, what are you building something for? I know when I go because I do most of the product initial concept, probably like you at Eotech with a lot of things like, hey, this is a thing I think we should. For me, with the engineers, it's like I've worked with Ethan for so long. I know the questions he's going to ask.
Right.
What's the objective? What are we trying to do? Like, what's the product need to do? Make me a priority list. And, okay, then we'll make the best, lightest thing that we can manufacture, and you decide if it's affordable. And we'll go from there. So I like that attitude with engineering because we can end up with products that I didn't even think we could do.
Right.
Where it's really easy if you don't employ good engineers or guys that can think, like, outside the box or are interested, for me, in new technologies. Like a big pain in the ass with the head of my engineering, who's worked with me for almost 15 years, is he is a whore for manufacturing technology. Like, that's what he really likes. Like, he loves cars, planes, motorcycles, guns, like all the things that dudes like, and especially mechanical engineers. But what he really is fascinated by is manufacturing technology, whether it's 3D printing, it's spraying titanium, like whatever it is. And I think him being into that is benefited our company a lot because he doesn't care what any other company is doing, gun company, not trying to compete. And since we don't like chase military contracts now or big army stuff, it's like, okay, what can we do? Like, he gets off on doing things that haven't been done before, but not utilizing some technology that we have to develop, but technologies from other industries that are already out there. A lot of that is like he's super into Formula One, race cars, and they spend money on technologies and manufacturing technologies, and when he sees something that can overflow into our industry, and I think that's how we've been first to market with some products, or he kind of has that mentality and leads in that manner from engineering and design with our company. And that's exciting to me,
right? Because
I can say, hey, I want this thing to do this and weigh this much, but like I have no fucking clue how we could do it.
Sure. And for you, and I think it has so much to do with the relationship that overall this time you've been able to forge with Ethan, so that one question that never comes up with any engineer is what's the budget and how much time, right? Like, you have to tell them those features, right? Because it's a never-ending pursuit of how awesome can we make it.
Yeah.
And the goal at some point has to be a viable product that we can sell to fund this thing.
Yep. And he and Nick Schaefer, who's he actually leads engineering now, and Ethan's just been kind of moved to, he's the VP of engineering, but really special products or, special projects.
Special projects.
And Nick is more management. But for them, it's like, that's me at the end of the day, because they will keep refining something till the end of time, whether it's 8.6, the cartridge that we're working on. Like, it doesn't make any difference to those guys. Like, they're not getting paid more.
Right.
It's just like, and they're not asking for it, but it's like they want to build the best thing. The fixed rifle was a huge undertaking for a company our size of its design. And that thing, Nick would keep refining it till the end of time if I let him.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, how much are you going to improve? And what are you using as a basis to quantify that improvement?
Right.
And, at the end of the day, everybody's got to get paid.
Well, one of the things we did right when we got into Eotech, I think maybe by the third or fourth day, I had probably signed the 10th document approving something. And when I got to the 10th, I said, I'm just not going to sign this. I'm tired of doing this. There's just too many layers of approvals. There's too many sort of incremental forms that have to be signed. And everything was, the bureaucracy and the red tape. We had a meeting. We said, we're done with that. And so what we did is we separated engineering into two. Three. We have sustaining and engineering too, but we created a group, our CTO calls Element 115, and all those guys are inventing. They're experimenting, trying to come up with something cool underlying technology that will go into a product. They're not trying to build a product, right?
That's interesting.
That's it, right? And then we have the engineering group that works part and parcel with Aaron when we decide, hey, this is a product that we want to build. We think it's right for the market. We think it's something our consumers are demanding. And we're going to go through the process of, just like you articulated, here's the goal. Can we do it at the right price?
Yeah.
Right? and you go through those process iterations, and you go and build that, and then maybe somewhere along the way, one of those things spit out of element 115 into a new product, right?
Yeah, to me that's exciting because I think, and sometimes it's timing. Like sometimes we're working on something, timing's not right. But if we truly believe, whether it's in engineering or this technology, if I'm knowledgeable enough about it, then it's like, well, this is going to be a thing. Like, for instance, right now 3D printing, like it's the future. Like at some point in the future, and it's everybody's guess now, we're not going to be cutting metal from bar stock and things like that. We're going to be printing stuff. And I've seen in just the last couple of years, like production or prototype 3D printing equipment is half the price and 2 or 3 times better than it was and more efficient. So where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years from now? And I'm doing that while I'm spending millions of dollars still buying CNC equipment to cut metal. But we see at some point it's going to be 3D printing, like I believe. But that's interesting thinking about, because that's really where Ethan gets off, is the like new technologies. And then and he's really good about it. He's only worked in the firearms industry his entire life, and he's in his 40s now. And he was the first degreed engineer at SIG in the U.S. And Ethan
wow.
He was only like the 86th employee or something. But I mean, he's only 41, maybe 42, and he was the first degreed engineer for SIG in the U.S. And but so it's all he's ever done is guns. So he's instantly, when he sees some new technology, it's like, how can I? Because it doesn't matter to him unless he can put it into something he's invested in.
Right.
And so it's kind of like what you're saying. So naturally, like now, even a company our size, we have sustainment engineering, and that's separate. And Ethan is like special projects. Because what I found was, you got these really smart guys at the company, and I just like freaked out and got frustrated this past year, because it's like they do, I have 5 design engineers, and they're not designing anything new. They're doing like sustainment, or they're doing all these other things. Hey, what are you doing? And sustainment and all these other things. And I'm like, we pay all these guys, and they're so good at their jobs. Like, Nick and Ethan, I couldn't hire better engineers for what they do.
Right.
And they're working on the freaking ERP, and they're doing fixturing, and they're doing like revising prints. Yeah. And for them, because too, you have some employees who, and just people in general, who are going to do more of the bare minimum. And then you have some of them, like the only arguments I ever have with those two is like forcing them to delegate and not do shit that is keeping them from designing product. It's like, well, you guys are so smart, and I know you have the most experience with this, and you could do this better than anyone, but then you're not designing product. And like your real value to this company, and like our long-term goals are for you to design stuff we can sell. Like hire another engineer to do sustainment, like right now. Like you go home and you find them. Like we got the resumes, and you don't come back to work until you pick one. And it's like I get in those arguments with those guys because they want to do too much, and you might run into that too. I don't know, but
all the time. One of the other things we did that at first, Aaron and his counterpart Mark Miller and JB, I think, absolutely hated me for this idea, but
they said it.
Yep. What I wanted to do is we're really focused on a young workforce as well, and we believe that they bring a lot of interesting new ideas and innovation to the business. And so we set up it's sort of an online tool where they can go in and put in new product ideas, right?
Oh, yeah.
They've got to defend it, right? So there's a series of kind of questions that they go through to defend it. And then once you get it sort of an aggregate level of, 10, 15 or so every couple months, Aaron and the team he's on have a meeting. They meet with everybody, and they walk through each of them, and they either say, this is rolling right into the product roadmap, this is a pause maybe, or no, this isn't going to work, and here's why. And the number one thing for me out of that is they're educating all the rest of the engineering team, the sales team, the marketing team that are coming up with these ideas on what works and what doesn't work, right? Yeah. And so through that process iteration, I believe they're going to come up with better and better ideas, because they're going to put all that in the back of their head next time they come up with an idea. And who knows, one of these days we're going to get a gem out of them. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it is. For me, I looked at it originally as trying to separate the company into production, because that's like one mentality to me, and then creative. And the creative for me is product design. It's graphic arts. It's marketing. It's all the creative processes that we want to use, and it's a real different mentality than. And it doesn't, like, I hate operations, Like, I just can't stand any of that repetitive stuff, but it's so important for us
Mm-hmm.
for, when I'm trying to build a premium brand and premium products that we can charge a premium for, quite honestly. But people need to get still the best value. We can charge the most out of anyone, but it needs to be the best value. And so we need consistency in manufacturing and all these things that I know you guys strive for. And so us being a small business, like me trying, when I encounter these things, and the stuff that's in my nature is the creative stuff, like the operations stuff is not, and I can't stand it. But it's just so necessary, you know, and it's what allows the business to grow. It's great, me talking to the engineers, like, that's great. You guys can design the greatest thing in the world. Like, if we can't make it or, consistently manufacture it at a quality level, and whether that means you got to do all this fixturing or whatever you got to do and ship them and sell them and get money for them, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the most useless product ever. It's a big waste of time.
Well, and prior to when we were owned by L3 and L3 Harris, there was no need to have, a Skunk Works section for engineers, right?
Yeah.
Everything was about sustainment, period.
Yeah.
So now that we have that, and there's a venue for that creative to no end, right? Let me just figure out some Wazoo stuff, and I mean, we do have some Wazoo stuff on there, but the goal is that things will trickle out of that that'll make either core product better, or technologies will emerge that make new moves.
Yeah.
And so I think a great example. Well, first off, the thing about employees, right? The hardest thing, and this is from being in the Army, hell, this is from working at Subway before I joined the Army, right? Yeah. All the way until, last week. The hardest thing in the world is to find an employee that wants to do more tomorrow than they did today. Those are gems. Those are the people that you want to hold on to. But they're really hard to find. And I don't think it's generational. People always say it's millennial and it's this and it's that.
No, that's
it's
bullshit.
human nature.
Like Socrates was saying shit like that.
Exactly. So, that's, it's a common problem, right?
Well, I take it for granted. And I think, for me, it's why an entrepreneur or someone who sees things, because you're this way. I know I'm this way. I don't know you well enough. But it's like somebody asked me in the last podcast that I did, like, what's like your biggest accomplishment? And I was like, every time it's like, what comes to my mind is, fuck, I hope it's the next thing. Yeah. Like, I'm always looking to that. And so there has to be a balance. And so for me at work, like, I've got a kind of my own board of directors at work, which it's a reality check for me all the time. They're different personalities, and there's a group of 5 technically. 5 of them, and every time I want to do something, I force myself, and this is like self-imposed, to go to them. Right. Because I don't want to be like too crazy and out there and think, oh, we were successful at this, so I can do anything. Yeah. You want to stay grounded, but like, I force them to give me reasons why we can't do it.
Right.
Yeah. And it keeps me from doing dumb shit a lot.
Yeah. I make great scope mounts, so I should make golf clubs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
that's an important part of how we
story.
operate, because coming from an L3 type organization, all the controls we talked about, we wanted to get rid of, but at the same time, we wanted to give people authority and autonomy to be creative and operate, but it's important to have that peer input, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a really important part of what we do, and sometimes people react in the organization, wait, are you trying to put another control on me like we used to have? No, that's not it, right? Communicate what you're trying to do, get it out there in the world, talk to your peers about that.
Be transparent and willing to defend it.
And be willing to defend it. And that's part of that input for them. They got to defend it. Right?
And be open-minded enough to know that you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know when you talked about like corporate bureaucracy, even when we formed Q, and Ethan Lassard and I left to do that, they tried to retain Ethan, like Ron Cohen did, at almost double Ethan's salary. And I remember he told me about it, and he's like, he was so done, he would have gone and worked at Subway, because all Ethan wants to do is create these things. And Ethan and I have a good personal relationship. We have a good professional relationship. And I give him so much latitude. And it's my money at the end of the day.
Right.
And I have so much confidence in him. But he has to be able to do those things to me. He's got to be able to explain it, defend it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like, he couldn't even defend wanting to do 8.6 because we're not an ammo company. But I believed in him, and that it could help like our brand equity. So I supported him when it probably made better financial sense for the next 5 years for him to work on our next gun or whatever.
Right.
But what are we trying to achieve? But he told me that Ron Cohen met with him when he put his notice in. And they offered him almost double his salary. And that Ethan was like upset. Not angry at Ron, but just like upset. And he's like, you don't understand. I won't work here for any amount of money anymore because like I've voiced this to you and my manager, and you don't hear me. All I want to do is design and create. Half my day is spent filling out your bullshit bureaucracy so I can do my fucking job.
Right.
And he's like, I don't want to spend 4 hours a day dealing with bureaucracy to do my job. Like I shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
And so I'm not interested in working here anymore. And I think, that's, been a lot of people's mentality when a company grows, because it is hard. Like you grow a company, you got a lot more people. You always have, whether it's me or Thomas, it's like you have a few assholes that break rules, and like it comes liability. And they're like, what do you do? And it's hard. Is like a business leader, sometimes you got to deal with the people individually, and like the thing I hate to do is make like blanket rules or bureaucracy that affects everyone, because you start to lose the quality of life at work. And like for me, it's like 30 years in, I still get up in the morning and I can't wait to get to work. Like I still love it. And for me, it's real simple. Like when I sell my company, it's not when I've reached some financial goal. It's when I don't want to go to work anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so like for me, I'm getting older, still young, and it's like I'm not ready to do that yet. And so it takes a lot of effort to make a great place to work and provide your employees with a
one of the things that's hard for me, I don't know if you run into it, is a lot of times because of your role, your position, people don't want to tell you you're wrong.
Oh, right? There's Thomas and 2 other people that don't lie to me at work.
Yeah. And so that's one thing that I at the end of every sentence I try to say, am I wrong about this? Tell me, because if you don't tell me, it's going to happen, and then you're going to regret it because you're going to be stuck doing it, right? And you're going to hate every minute of it. So now's the time to speak up. I try to lay that out there every time, and that's why I like working guys with Aaron, because he's not afraid to step up and say, hey, I see where you're going, but that doesn't make sense, and here's why. And you have to have that kind of group of people, and part of having that is treating every single situation as a unique situation and not creating all those blanket rules and controls.
Yeah, it is tough, but I think when you have someone like Aaron or an Ethan, it's like I can fire Ethan today and you can fire Aaron today. Like they're going to have a job in the morning. So it's like, you're not going to, and I love that. Like you can't bully someone with their livelihood, because like, okay, screw you. I'll just go work for Aimpoint tomorrow, or whoever.
Let's not get crazy.
Right. But, and I enjoy that because I see it with some employees too, like is they've grown in our company, and then it's okay, so you manage these departments, and then it's hard. And I don't really understand the psychology behind it, but where some people get seemingly like nervous about their position, and they're trying to, really hoard and what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're afraid that.
Well, they start to silo information, and what they want to do is be the controller and the keeper.
And what
of it
I
all.
want is like you're in this position because obviously I think you're valuable, and like a company growing 100% a year. It's like, hey, you have to learn to delegate, and you can't withhold information, and you're valuable, and it doesn't make you more valuable to like hoard information or not be transparent. It's like, okay, we already think you're smart enough and creative enough to be in these positions. It's like, just be transparent.
Yeah.
For me, and I think it's hard for a lot of people.
They
think, oh, I'm going to be exposed. It's like,
yeah,
I thought that for 25 years in my career. And all of a sudden one day it's like, well, shit, it doesn't really matter.
That's the worst thing you can do at Eotech. You can screw up, make a horrible mistake. Yeah. We'll work with you. We'll fix it. But if you try to control and hoard information and don't work with your peers.
Oh, put the company first. It's like, I mean, I get in trouble constantly. And, and I had to deal with something yesterday, and it's like at my company, and it's like I want the company to be so successful. Like the difference in, we were talking about it last night, the difference in me working another 5 or 10 years and me leaving today.
Right.
Whether it was the company sold or I just don't work anymore and the company continues and I still own it. It's just like, I just have a Gulfstream or I don't. Like it doesn't really affect a lot of things. It affects some freedom for me.
Right.
But if like, I don't think I should be the CEO. Like, I don't think so. I think there's probably somebody better. I just haven't found them yet. But I would really love for somebody to do all the things that I suck at the company and make the company way greater.
Right.
Like I can work with Thomas and the guys in marketing, and I can work with engineering to come up with products. But like, I probably shouldn't do much more. But it's a matter of finding, and me as the owner, like, I'm willing to accept that. And if I could find that person, and I get to go hunting into the beach more, and I get to have a plane, I don't okay, that's great. Let's give them all the credit in the world.
Yeah, but it's right now, even if you found that guy, it wouldn't be good for you or for him or her, because it's still your baby, right? There's still too much nurturing you need to do right now. But
it's a tough thing.
I think the big lesson, right, whether we take it that way or not, is that entrepreneurial spirit is not inside of everybody.
No.
That quest for greatness is not inside of everybody. Some people are just so happy with where they are that they don't want to do anything that will either expose them. And, life lesson for everybody out there, if you're where you belong, you fucked up so far back that there's no fixing it now, right? You should be uncomfortable. You should be making decisions that you don't feel qualified to make.
Yeah,
because if you never miss, how the fuck are you going to get better and faster and stronger?
Yeah, I think if you're a real innovator, you're a real leader, you're more comfortable with being uncomfortable than the average person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to teach a class at a university for graduating students, interviewing, how to look for a job, how to interview, that kind of stuff, and giving advice. And I used to start off with saying there are three people in business: people that innovate and create, people that show up and work hard and don't do that, and then the third category, just don't be the third.
Yeah,
every business needs the first two. No business needs the third.
It's because we probably have all read a lot of books that talk about these sorts of things, but I've never heard it articulated the way you just said. But what I say is, like, if every manager at our company is doing their job, there's probably a third turnover constantly.
Yeah, because
like, I think we have a wonderful company, a wonderful group of employees. We have a wonderful culture. But, we could do a survey of the 52 or whatever people there of, like the least productive or worst employees. And it's probably 80% of them, are going to answer the same. And those are probably people you should be trying to replace constantly. And it's probably that, it's like a third that you talk about. Yeah, because, you're right. We do need the people that they want. What's stressful for them and they deal with it compared to maybe me or you is very different. Like, I'm willing to risk everything in the world to do the next thing.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people that work for me, if they had like my bank account, they would be fishing every day. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, it took me a long time to understand like why I'm driven. And, then there's people that aren't. And you need those people. Like, we need way more of them than we need of me.
Sure.
Because shit, we can't even make the things we do now. We can't make enough of them.
Well, yeah, and then nobody'd ever get their product, right? Because it would be in a constant state of making it better.
We'd be bankrupt, and everybody be working somewhere else.
Exactly. So, we need the people that are gonna, and God bless them, right? They're the ones that make the fight, right? But we need that other side, and where we make a mistake on the leadership side is making the assumption that all of our leaders think that way, right? We can look at the rank and file and their productivity and their workflow and the quality of their work tells you everything you need to know about whether or not they're doing a good job at making widgets or putting widgets together. But when you start looking at that creative and innovative side of it, if you start to feel like because they're empowered or they're in that position that they're going to do the things that you would do or you have that's where we start to make the mistake because there's so many people who aren't driven by the idea of success, and that hurts.
What is success? I know when we had an offer on our company a couple of years ago, and I was talking to my board about it, and they were talking to me about it more like it, but I was, for them, like the rest of the board has like lots of money, so like our money doesn't change their life at all.
Right.
And plus, they own small percentage. And they said, what they said to me at the end, there's a couple things they said. They said, listen, we invested in you. And if you're done working, sell the company. It's a great return. We're very grateful. It doesn't change our lives, though. It like the amount of money probably changes your life.
Right.
Most of the company. And so one of them, the private equity guy, is real smart, asked me this. And it's like the only thing he said in it is, other than agreeing with that, he's just like, we invested in you. So if you're done and you want to go hunt and fish the rest of your life, let's sell the company. We're grateful. Right. If you're not done working, why would you sell the company? Like, you've gotten through the hard part of because for the non-creatives, developing a product that there's a demand for, marketing the product to create the demand, those are the hard things for like non-creatives. And they said that to me, and he just says, because he's always been he's always measured by just the metrics is just financial. And he says, well, what are your financial goals? And I was like,
Gulfstream.
I was just like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, ask me. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't have, I live kind of a normal life except for my hunting. Like, I don't have any debt or anything.
Right.
And he's like, well, and he had to break it down for me. He's like, okay, if you had all the money in the world, what's the thing you would buy you think would change your life? I was like, I want a fucking plane. And he's like, that's a stupid financial decision. Like, you buy a share in a plane. I was like, nah. Oh, I was like, I'm a pirate, I want, if my homie calls me, if Aaron calls me and says, hey, it's noon. He's like, hey, we're having a party at 6 o'clock tonight. Come on. Like, I want to be able to do that. That changes my quality of life.
Right.
It's like, it's not for the gram. It's for, that actually changes my quality of life. Or I could go hunt every single weekend. I get an invite. But, you got to fly commercial. It's like an ordeal. And it's like, so that was the first time, at 46, I thought about what are my actual financial
into
goals?
Those terms, right?
And then I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, what asshole needs a plane? But then I thought, well, also the things that drive me, like the creativity, and for me, it's good. And I think this way, because I have no problem being driven creatively. Like that's just in an abundance in my head. But financially, I've just been spoiled enough to where and I hate money. I don't like dealing with my money. I don't I can't even pay I haven't paid my bills probably in 20 years, my household bills, because it stresses me out. It doesn't matter how much money I have. When I see that, oh my God, my utility bill is this, fuck this, I got to sell
fucking
this house.
Hulu went up $1 a month. What the
I know. My assistant showed me how much cable cost the other day, and the last time I paid a cable bill, it was $25. It's cable's $300. It's why the fuck do I have cable?
But you only had 13 channels then.
I know. So. I was I just need YouTube, and I had no nothing. So I'm like, Tori, do I have to have cable to have YouTube on my television? She's like, you're such an idiot. No. I was like, cancel the cable right now. $300.
Yep. I can see that.
Yeah, and so for me, but having the financial goal, what it's done, so I went off on another tangent, is it makes me think more like a CEO, because it's okay, I have a financial goal, so that drives me for the company to be, effective financially and make good financial decisions and grow that part of the business, which in the end is good for everyone.
Sure. And I hope you'll take this from a place of love, which is where it generates. And it's based on my years of knowing you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, take another take a boot shot. It's great that you finally were able to put that financial portion in there, because now you'll know what right looks like next time it comes around, and it will come around, right? And it saves so much stress, because now you know an offer that you don't even have to consider, right? I mean, the right offer is still going to take a lot more thought, but what I would tell you is that even if it was 100% over that number that you have mentally clocked in, and you said, fuck yeah, it's out of here, you'd be one of those dumb motherfuckers who sold their house in the last 5 months because the market was just ridiculous and they could get so much equity out of their home and didn't realize they needed to buy another fucking home, and they were going to pay at that same price that they just sold at. So they didn't even get a chance to bump up, because all you're going to do is start 2016 all over again, because it ain't out of you yet.
Well, fuck you, Aaron. But you're also right. But I think where you're wrong is, I'm too young and not enough into fishing yet to stop working.
Well, the young
But,
part.
Also, I thought about, medical technology. They might be able to cyborg my ass, and I live
Well,
to be
I've
100.
always believed that you're only as old as the women you sleep with. So. Oh, you're good.
I know.
You got a second chance.
Yeah, second
right?
chance. But this is what I thought about with the house, like this house during that. But it's unusual the area we are, and there's only 4 or 5 houses in the school district, kind of like this one. And I'm like, oh, my kids are gone. Like, I'm here by myself. This place is ridiculous. You know, the honest reason that I didn't sell it and get like a more appropriate house for just me, because I want to go north too and live on like a lot of land where I can have like 1,000 yard from my porch. And all
Right.
that. And it's here. I can do it. The real reason I didn't do it was I would burden Tori so much with like the move, because I have so much stuff,
Right.
that I was afraid like it would ruin her life for a year or she would quit. And I just felt like unfair about it. And I was like, I don't really need to move. It's who cares?
Yeah. Well, this home fits your life. Like, it's perfectly laid out. It's perfectly situated, and there's always the opportunity to buy that land, build that range, and put a place on it. Right.
Barndominium.
I mean, you're balling like that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to fucking play the peaks and valleys. You just fucking do what you do.
No, but it was like I think enough about money where it was like, well, geez, this market is stupid. I should,
Yeah.
because when I bought it, it was for like me and the 3 kids and 2 dogs, and they're all a year apart, and they're like starting to enter high school at the time, and it's like I want a place where all their friends can be here and they want to hang out, and
Right.
And now it's just like, I don't
Look,
know. I use everything as a storage room.
I have 0 roots in Columbus, Georgia now. My kids are off in schools. They got their own lives. I've got way more house than I need. I would sell that home in a second and move if I didn't have to move my shit. Mm-hmm. If I could just start over, it would happen tomorrow. But I don't have a Tory, and I'm way too fucking lazy to move.
So this is where I got you guys beat. I live near a dump, and I have a free dump pass. And one of the most things I am most proud about is they know me at the dump. I don't even need to show my pass when I drive
you
up.
just pull up now. Like, what's up?
Yeah. My wife thinks I'm crazy for it, but it's phenomenal because if I haven't touched something in 6 months, it's right on the way to the office. Like, I just jump in, jump it off the dump, and I'm moving.
Crazy.
And, the thing about it is we have this big, beautiful property and trees surrounding. You can't see any neighbors. It's lovely there. But you look over in the backyard and you can see the dump. You see the backside of it. We don't catch any smell of it. But as soon as that dump's capped in 7 or 8 years, property value is going to go way up. People are going to start moving in, and I'm going to get out of there. And I'm going to get out of there fast because I've dropped everything off at the dump.
Yeah, right. That's a good idea.
I can't do it.
It is pirate life. I just burn stuff.
Yeah.
Still a pyromaniac. Well, what? Okay, so
Well, hold on. Don't change subjects yet.
Yeah,
'Cause
what?
they had one more. So many moons ago, the U.S. Army used to have parallel paths for enlisted. They had the specialists, and then they had the NCOs, right? So now E4 is a specialist or a corporal. So a specialist is in charge of stuff, and a corporal is in charge of people, right?
Yeah.
But after E4, if you're advancing, you're a non-commissioned officer, right? So you're in charge of people. Engineers, as a collective, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of their discipline, are generally not geared toward the people aspect of the job, like actually managing people and leading people. They're
that's
more
such a gift.
they're more on the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why there's so many shitty bosses out there, because in order to advance, and I don't mean that by owners, right? I don't mean that by entrepreneurs. The shitty entrepreneurs are the ones who don't realize that they suck at something, right? That you were really good, and that's why you started this business, and you were great at it. That's why it's successful. But what do you suck at?
Did you guys hear Aaron compliment me right there?
Yeah, it was good. And so it'd been better if you hadn't pointed it out. You know, people could have just. But anyway,
maybe they're dense.
So Silicon Valley's figured it out, right? Yeah. Because in Silicon Valley, they have all of these really goofy titles for software engineers and hardware engineers so that they can continue to advance, so that they drive, right? And they're at a VP level, but they're not in charge of anything. They're still independent contributors. And the rest of certainly our industry, but in so many other industries, really hasn't caught up to that people need to be challenged in order to have a goal, right? To be able to advance. But if the advancement is that I now have to manage people and I fucking suck at managing people,
that's a gift,
I don't
man.
want it. It is. And not everybody has it. And you shouldn't want everybody to have it.
Most people don't.
No. But there has to be a place for those people. There has to be something to aspire to, somewhere else to go to. And so I think that for me, that's kind of the challenge, especially when dealing with our team of engineers, is I don't want to stifle your creativity, but I need you to focus on this. And that's the kind of thing where the fuck is the shark fin? Oh, Jesus Christ. You need a light for that shit, okay?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so whatever. We're done. He fucked up the mood. No, we're not done. We're fucking done. I said we're done.
To end this thought, I can end it for him, is it's all about managing output.
Exactly.
Right? So you don't have to manage people to strive in your career at Eotech.
Right.
But what you get the opportunity to is manage output, manage a project, something that is going to significantly contribute to the business.
Right. And that's the key.
But who manages the people that handle all that?
Well, I mean, but that's a smaller, you're looking at a smaller group, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, everybody has, a freaking, everybody has a group of, or a team that they lead in order for them to get where they're trying to get to, in order to get to this director level or this next level of pay and skill. When all they really want to do is focus on a program. They want to be a contributor to that. So you can make teams that are broader and deeper and have less oversight than what the traditional structure is, where you've got a VP and then a director or two and then individual managers who have 2 or 3 people on them. And now you're all trying to get up to this next position, but the next position is leading people, and all you really want to do is contribute to your shit.
I see. It's because I hate the traditional model of it seems like from an HR perspective, we got an HR department even at our size, and it's people want this, and it's all about salary and that. And we have employees, and it's not just me, where like Nick Schaefer, he was the lead engineer of the fixed rifle. He went through 3 rounds of raises. Hang on, baby, hang on 1 second. We'll go out there. He ain't going anywhere. Someone finish this up. I'll walk you out, okay? So, where I realized like what a fucking treasure he was for managing people is he went through 3 rounds of raises where he turned it down and asked me to give it to his guys beneath him. He's like, I have the greatest job in the world. I make more money than I need. He's like, you'll take care of me if something happens one day, or even if you don't, like these guys need it more than me, and it's not gonna like change anything in my life or my work ethic. Like you giving me the freedom to be the lead designer on this gun, to where I don't have to deal with 8 levels of bureaucracy, and that to him was way more valuable than money.
Right.
But it's like that's the problem with managing people. You got him, and then you got people that they're not doing another fucking thing unless
exactly.
They get
and there is no one size fits all motivator, right? It's not so necessarily money. Sometimes it's responsibility.
I'll wrap it up with a quick story, similar story. We had a guy that came into my office and said, "Thank you so much." He was going through cancer treatments. He said, "Thank you so much. I didn't work for months. You paid me my full pay. Everything was taken care of, and I'm cancer free. I really appreciate it." I had no idea. This is why it's important, is the manager knew that they had the responsibility to do the right thing, and they didn't even have to ask me. Of course I would have said yes, right? Yeah. It's those kind of people that you want to make sure you never let them go.
Yeah, that's a great manager. But it's tricky because you have people that take advantage of it.
Right.
But I mean, that's the cool thing about managers is, Because like you and I said, like everybody lies to us. Nobody tells us what's going on. If you have managers, hopefully they're entrenched, and have a relationship with their people to where they know these sorts of things. And they know who's taking advantage and who's not. Where everybody's super nice to me at work, but I don't know. There's probably a dozen shit asses. I just don't know because they lie to me. Oh, you know what we got lost on? As I went on like another rant and tangent.
I think we got lost on everything.
It's so fun though. I don't. It's
such a difficult editing job.
It's a conversation amongst friends. But you guys are coming out with a new line of magnified optics. So did Aaron pitch? Who pitched this to you? Is a good idea. Because I think
I can't remember who specifically pitched it, to be honest.
Because the 1 to 10 is only a street price of what, like $1,200 or something?
$1,300, yeah.
That is, it's a lot of money. But people spend, you know how it is. They spend $3,000 on their AR. Like, we can't spend that much on optics.
Sure.
Idiot.
It's a lot of money, but it's not.
For that technology and that performance, that turret, the reticle you guys did, titties, everything about it. And, I'm not, I didn't like the 1 to 8. Yeah. I liked it from 1 to 6, but then you had a 1 to 6. The 1 to 6 you guys did is phenomenal. And things that matter to me with it. And I think some subtleties. And, not that I ain't Kyle Lamb or whatever, but I use a gun and an optic more than most people at this point. And for serious things. It's not like most of the time I'm not hunting dangerous games or things that can kill me. But it is I travel halfway around the world. I spend tens of thousands of dollars.
It's got to work.
It is important to me.
Yeah.
And that 1 to 10 or the 5 to 25. A couple of the engineers, the 5 to 25. That's what they have on their fix. It's their favorite optic for it, even for hunting. Yeah. And for me, for hunting, I like a lower magnification because I want one gun where I shoot 50 yards to 600, 700 yards.
Right.
And so I like a little more on the low end. Target shooting. It would be fine to me if it were the minimum of a 7 power, target shooting. I'm never using low. But anyway, magnified optics. So you got that. So you guys are coming out with, so is it based on the 6X erector? You're coming out with a lower price point, but all the great features.
Yes. We're going to do, we have a number of little things that we're really doing to kind of help control pricing. So, as a great example, typically the hunting market space likes, you're an anomaly, but I think you're an anomaly because of all of your earlier experiences.
Yeah, I found hunting later in life.
Right. Yeah. But most of those guys who kind of, say that our price point's too high, they're looking for a second focal plane. They want that consistency of reticle size. They're not trying to, mill a target and those kind of things. So we're going to go with second focal plane, which is, much easier for production.
So it is. So a lot of the cost difference is just production costs.
A significant amount.
Because I'm ignorant.
Yeah, a significant amount. And then also by using 4X and 6X erectors, that is, those are saying they're less precise is kind of an overstatement for it, but they're easier to manufacture. They're more well known. We can buy them in, not like a 1 to 10.
Well,
right?
Let's stop there. When we say 4 or 6X erector, so that would mean a 1 to 4 scope or a 2 to 8 scope or a 3 to 12 for a 4X. So just multiply the
your 4X multiplier or your 6X multiplier.
And then 6 would be the same way.
Right.
And so, now it seems like becoming sort of a standard for, a top-end, high-end scope is a 10X erector. But why is that more expensive once you've figured out how to manufacture it? Why is it more expensive, or are you paying for the R&D to develop the 10X?
No, well, you're paying for the R&D to develop the 10X.
Yeah.
But then you're also paying for a lot more lenses. Every one of those
it has more lenses
in it. The camming action is further because you're going, a full 10 times greater, right? So
okay, so it's sort of like with the fix, we're with a 45-degree bolt throw rather than a 9-degree, we're accomplishing the same task.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But so with this, and it's expensive, right? And so, and the more lenses you have, the more precise your prescription on each lens has to be. More precise.
Okay,
the
so
placement.
it makes more sense now. We have more lenses, and so then, the lenses in any optic like that's critical, but now you got to do it 3 or 4 times more.
Right.
Oh,
And-
okay.
and
Yeah,
then-
it makes total sense.
Right.
And that scope's not too heavy.
No, it's not. I mean,
And the
and
glass
that's-
is most of the weight, it seems like, in optics.
the glass is, the glass is pretty much all your weight when it comes to an optics. If you're designing it properly,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's cheaper to just leave super thick wall aluminum, right? And
Yeah.
say it's for strength and durability. It's easier to do those things than it is to manage that weight properly and put it on a diet and make it something that's worth having. And then also, the more lenses you put in it, so the higher you go with that erector, the smaller your exit pupil is going to be, because you're shrinking that light down more and more and more and more. You're also taking away more and more light, because every time it hits air or a lens, you're losing some percentage of that visible light. And we get by that by doing, coatings.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say, is it coatings
So-
like Swarovski, for instance?
Right, but I can brighten the image. There's things that I can do to manipulate it on the way through.
Yeah.
But the more lenses, the more polishing, the lower the tolerance.
Yeah,
So as you get up and up and up and up, there's economies of scales that helps 4Xs and 6X erectors and 3X erectors. But then there's also just real price there in how.
Yeah, there's labor in it. Well,
Yeah.
I think in terms of, like you and I both like cars, but with like a new Corvette, you probably get 95% of the performance now out of like a comparable Ferrari or Lamborghini, but you're paying triple for that last 5%.
Yep, and
It's not for
and
everybody.
those who buy it would say it's well worth it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Okay, so I see. Well, that makes way more sense to me. You educated me again on some of that.
Yeah, so
put more lenses in there.
So we're doing that, right? And that's a big deal, right? I don't want to downplay it, right?
Swarovski
It's
doesn't
big
have
deal.
a 10x erector. They also won't go to a 34 mil tube, so I can dial more. Because what's the problem is I'm about to go to Africa this week, and I'm killing stuff with subsonic 8.6 right here, which we've talked about. Well, I can't even dial unless I have a 20, 30, 40 MOA rail or mount. I can't even dial to 300 in a Swarovski with a 34 mil tube on y'all's.
Right.
I
right
can.
in there.
I can go to probably 400.
Right. And it all comes down to optimization of the design, right? And so that 1 to 10 was our first iteration on it. The next one will be better. What we do with the 5 to 25 platform next will be even better and bigger. But what we're looking to do is we're not trying to cover every base, right? We don't want to have a catalog that's just prolific and goes from $99 up to $4,000 or $5,000. There's plenty of companies that have done that, and they're very successful with it. But we kind of know our lane, and we want to stay there.
Yeah.
But there's enough demand, and we see an opportunity to be able to provide a better product inside of that price point to meet those consumer needs.
Yeah, using some proven technology you guys have with I don't even know if you guys ever did a 4X, but 6X erector.
Right.
So you're going to have a line of scopes. They're going to be what? They're going to be like 2 to 8. They're going to be 2 to 12. They're going to be
2 to 12 for sure.
It's a great hunting scope. 2
it's
to 12.
phenomenal, right?
That range, you can shoot to 700 meters or shoot something at 25 meters.
And so that's kind of where we want to go. Like the most sold scope out there is the 3 to 9, right? But
it's ridiculous.
I think the average price point on them, across that whole spectrum is like $198 or something like that. That the high end is like $499. So if you want to get into that and play in that, it's just a race to the bottom, right? And we're not trying to play in that. So we want to give the consumer, what they need and demand, but we want to do it in a way that allows us to be innovative. I'm sure I said it on the last podcast, because I say it all the time, but my favorite quote for product development was from Henry Ford. He said, if I asked my customer what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse.
Yeah.
So we always hear that what they want is what a derivative of what they already have, and what we're trying to do is say, we can do better. It'll perform where you want it to be. It's going to meet your end user needs, but we're going to do it better. And if we can't do it better, then why do it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, better. It's that's relative to the category.
Sure.
But I will
Very
say,
subjective.
I mean, you think like you just said you guys are going to do a 2 to 12, and will you have like a dot or a lit reticle or anything and something like that? Because I say that because the last scope that Swarovski sent me, which I've used and I love for hunting, and it's not super compact, but it's a 1.7 to 13.3. And so, I guess that's probably an 8X.
Mm-hmm.
It's a phenomenal power range, and I can shoot any distance that is reasonable with Swarovski. With Swarovski, without having like MOA rail and mount, you can't really go beyond like maybe 650 yards for hunting. And sometimes I shoot farther. But that power range, like I'll shoot that far. So like a 2 to 12, like that is so practical,
Right,
for me.
Yeah. No, it's going to be it's going to be
way
a
better
great
than a
lineup.
3 to 9.
Yeah, and it may not work for you because you are you're really into first focal plane. So people that are really into second focal plane, switching them over to first focal is usually scary, especially on the low end.
Yeah.
And for if you're designing a scope that is low power variable and it's a first focal plane, it's difficult because optimizing that reticle is super hard, right? I need to be able to find it fast on one power and not be looking through a screen door on the high power. So with the 2 to 12 being second focal plane, I can optimize that reticle and give you what you're looking for hunting without having to worry about, changing sub-10s and that kind of thing. So it's easier to develop on that end as well.
What about turrets? Are you going to lose much with the turret?
You mean as far as adjustment range?
Yeah, zero stop, like.
So you'll more than likely on this first gen, we're going to do capped windage, and
I'm fine with capped windage.
Probably a capped elevation that's a target turret, so it'll be very similar in styling and size to our 1 to 6, but you can throw a cap on it as well.
All right, so first and second focal plane.
Right.
So for those listening,
the easiest way to tell the difference is when you're looking through the scope and you adjust the magnification. If the reticle grows or if it increases or decreases with the magnification, then that reticle is on the front focal plane. So that front focal plane is the first place that the light actually enters. So it's where it's on the front end of the erector, and we're manipulating that beam of light all the way through the erector, all the way through the eyepiece. The difficulty of that is all of your precision happens at the reticle lens, right? So wherever that reticle is placed inside of that scope, that is now, what you're aiming, where all your precision lies, right? So if I have it in the front at the beginning of my focal plane, my erector and all the other lenses have to be perfectly optically aligned and perfectly in time and in tune with that first place that light beam actually, comes in contact.
So, why do you want it? Why do you want that?
Well, because if you're trying to mill a target or use your stadia lines,
measure a target.
Measure a target using your reticle, or using your reticle to hold wind or to hold off for distance, right? If I put it on the second focal plane, which is easier, it's the last place that light hits before it goes into my eyepiece. It's a stationary point, right? There's no movement from it. So whatever happens up here doesn't matter as much because I've already manipulated the image. So at this point, I just need to make sure that it is still in direct line with wherever my erector is. And that's fine because it's attached to my erector, right? But it doesn't move. So it's easier. But since it doesn't grow with the image because it's after the erector, that means that the sub-10s on it, so the lines, the stadias, the marks that are in there, they're only accurate at one magnification. Now, generally, that magnification is going to be the top end. So like on our 1 to 8, our stadia lines and hold-offs, they're accurate at 8x. But when you go down to 1X, they're not, because my reticle stayed the same size, but my target image reduced in size, which means my hold offs aren't there. So you can still use the same techniques to measure and to hold off, but you're subtending only at one magnification. But if I'm in a first focal plane, my subtends is exactly the same no matter what magnification I'm in. So if each one of my lines is 1 mil, they're always 1 mil.
Okay, so in a first focal plane, you can measure any magnification. A second, you can only measure at one magnification.
Correct.
What? Okay, so it seems like first focal plane is way better in every regard. Why would a consumer want a second focal plane?
So most everyday shooters, like the people who purchase those 3 to 9 powers, right? Just the guy who's going to put it on his 30-06 to go deer hunting, he's not measuring. He's not. If anything, he's probably using hold offs or Kentucky windage to take that shot, because he's got 100 yard zero and that's what he knows, right? So there's consistency in that reticle, because it's presenting you the exact same image no matter what magnification you put it on. So whether you're at 3 power or at 9 power, the reticle looks exactly the same. So in your mind, all you did was bring the target closer, right? Plus, because it's easier to manufacture, they're cheaper. So as soon as you go to the first focal plane, you're spending more money from a development standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint, across the board. So those products, if they're quality, they're going to cost more. So you have to pay more for it. And the target in the reticle is inconsistent. Yeah. So it's really small at 1 power and really big at 6. Or
well, let me ask you this. I was talking about that 1.3 to 1.7 to 13.3 Swarovski that they sent me. Like, that is I don't know MSRP, but I think it's probably $3,200 or $3,600. Like, it's expensive. Why aren't they doing, in your estimation, first focal plane? Because they can clearly charge a premium,
and they can clearly do first focal plane, right? They have some good scopes that are set up that way.
They do already?
Yeah, I've seen some. I don't know that I've seen them. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why they don't, other than, again, market data says that the people who are purely in it for hunting want a second focal plane. And so
if you're used to it, because clearly they're a hunting company,
and that's what they're. You're buying a $4,000 Blauser rifle, then you want an equivalent scope to go on top. Otherwise, you're going to be the laughingstock of the lodge. Yeah. So second focal is, as soon as you do the market data, if you're making a sportsman's line, second focal plane's the way to go.
Because I will say that 1 to 10 that you guys do is so tits, because 1 power, you have a circle and a dot, sort of like, is that what it is? Circle and a dot.
Circle dot.
Yeah, just like your holographic sight.
Yep. So it's fast.
And then you go out and I think you've got a dot with a BDC, so you can it's phenomenal. It's basically like having 2 or 3 optics in one optic, because it's at 1 power. It's close, but like this with the field of view and that wide screen and everything, that's just like having something floating out in the air that's on the target. That's great. And to me, a step down from that is like an aim point, like that aim point micro, where it is a small tube you look through and there's a dot. And for me, and it's probably not everyone, but I would say in America, a lot of people pig hunt now. Like, that's a popular thing.
Sure.
And for me, if you tell me we're going to shoot a whitetail, I mean, honestly, if I'm in a high seat, like a climbing stand, or I'm in a blind and we're going to shoot max 100 yards, aim point micro, perfect for me. But if you tell me we're going to shoot pigs or any movers or anything like that,
right,
I would pay triple to have the circle and a dot in that wide screen. And that's from experience. I didn't know until I went. And, and I shoot a lot of animals in Africa. Inside of 100 yards and sometimes 200 yards, it's typically a mover I'm shooting.
Right.
And so the target acquisition of the circle with the dot is just so much faster, because it seems like, oh, there's a dot, you find it quick. No, when like a second matters, you pull that up and you search for the dot. You don't ever search for that fucking circle.
Nope. Nope.
You know, and I find myself, and you know, I've talked to you about it over the years and stuff, but understanding the optic, and it's like, it's subconscious. You don't even realize it. But after you use it some, whether you're shooting still, and I'll go to my range and I shoot still, and you know, you always start out and you go back to paper. It's like, I'm just trying to make the hits.
Right.
And then like throughout the day, it's, I need to be faster. And by the end of the day, I'm shooting 3 times as fast as like my first run.
Right.
And what I see at the end of the day is I put the circle on the target. I don't even look for the dot. It's like line that thing up pretty close in the circle. Because for hunting or a practical application, even self-defense, like I'm not trying to shoot a half-inch group at 100.
Right.
Like I'm trying to put a shot in vitals,
Sure.
which can be, you know, if we're talking about a human or we're talking about an elk, you got some leeway. And a lot of times, like that split second matters a ton.
Absolutely. And even if we get away from the fact that, you know, the holography, you know, tricks your eye into believing that the reticle's on the same plane as the target.
Yeah.
The other big issue is the off-axis, you know, ability to have a complete field of view and a reticle.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start with a tube system or any magnified
your field
optic,
of view is,
you've got that exit pupil, and you've got to get that exit pupil over your entire pupil, otherwise it shades. So throwing a rifle up and looking through it, even on 1 power, is never going to be as fast as having a true 1X optic, because I still need to get some cheek placement. I still need to get my eye directly behind that optic.
Absolutely not
and with
with
this,
that.
I don't need to do that.
Well, let me ask you that when we were talking about, because I'm really ignorant to a lot of the optical stuff. The first focal point and second focal point, does your eye box change based on that, or is that, or does it just change based on a rector, or what determines like your eye box? And what I think that means is basically when I shoulder a gun, I got my cheek on the stock, and I'm looking like the distance from the rear of the scope to my face. Like it seems like a scope that I really liked years ago was the Leupold Mark 6. I think it is a Mark 6, 1:6.
They had the 6, and then right after that they had the 8, the CQBSS,
big heavy
big giant
thing.
one. Yeah,
but the lightweight 6, that was cool. It was one of the first, I think, like
I think it was one of the first true 1:6, right?
And they had a dot, and they had some good reticles, but that dot under recoil looked like it was shutting off.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm have my terminology and all correct, it's just like the eye box was so small, under recoil, your eye would actually move out of that eye box,
Right.
the sweet spot to where you could see it the whole time, and you would lose the dot, and it looks like the battery's failing or it's shutting off. But actually, I think it was just under recoil, your eye comes out of that eye box. It's so short that it made the scope annoying.
Well, see, I'll say this mostly for your listeners, because you say you don't understand optics and stuff, but you use a term like eye box. And I would say that the average consumer doesn't know what eye box is, right? They look at things in terms of eye relief. So there is, now what you say is absolutely right. But what most people look at is, what's the eye relief, right? So how far away do I need to be? But inside of that, there is a box, right? That is...
Yeah, fore and aft.
Right. And so, and left and right. So the larger that... So what you're actually doing at that eye relief level, so I like to say once the image has been processed, right? Yep. Because we're taking light, we're taking photons, we're doing a bunch of shit with them, and we're passing that image through a reticle or a wire, or whatever we're using in there as an aiming point, right, that we can adjust. And then we're sending it through an eyepiece, which is going to invert it and send it out to our eye. And when it comes out that end, it's what we call the objective pupil. So if we took a scope right now, a magnified optic, we set a piece of paper on the table, you could stand it up with the objective facing up and move it back and forth in the light. And at one point, you're going to see where all that light coalesces into a single circle. And when that light coalesces to that single circle, that's where your eye relief starts. When it opens back up or becomes an amoeba, that's where your eye box stops. Right,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's where you're going.
I didn't know there was a way to actually.
Yeah, you can take a look
do
at
that
it
for like a layman.
And honestly, if you're sitting at home right now and bored to shit, or later on you are, grab that same piece of paper, grab your best scope and your shittiest scope, and look at the quality of that circle. It'll tell you so much about the quality of the glass and the coatings and what it does to the light.
Oh, really? So layman sheet of paper can do this in the light and see a difference.
You'll notice the difference, and and it's noticeable enough that you can. It helps you rationalize the added expense of a good one, right? Without even knowing, because
that's a tougher one unless you go shoot in low light. That's the thing about hunting, and probably where Swarovski has spent so much time and energy on coatings and the actual glass, because so much hunting, especially North American hunting, happens at daylight and at dusk.
Yep.
And that's where it's critical, especially as your eyes get 40. And
that's why the typical consumer, to this day, is going to ask the guy behind the counter about light transmission, right? And that becomes a huge metric in which scope I'm going to select.
It seems like Leupold did a big push on that to like educate consumers at some level when they went from a Vari X2 to a Vari X3 back in the day.
Right.
Because it was a way to justify you spending more money and getting a new Leupold scope.
Yep.
Isn't it interesting that, like 30 years ago, like you bought a hunting rifle scope and that was a scope you would have the rest of your life?
Rest of your life. I've still got my same Bushnell on my same 30-06.
You did? My first was a 308 A-bolt, and it's got a Vari X2 3-9 on it, and it's still on there. Of course, I would never use it or shoot it now, but...
And I'm sure that Bushnell I have is like $24.99 at Kmart, and I probably waited for the blue light special and got it for less than that.
Blister pack came with rings and a pocket knife.
Everything, right? But... the truth is we can manipulate that. It's no different than the suppressor industry, right? Yeah. Where I set up my microphone ad and all these other things, I can manipulate those results and say, what that dB reduction really is. You can do the same thing with light, right?
Well, I think this because, I've got more of a history and understanding with silencers. But when it comes to like light transmission, we start talking about iBox and some things. To me, it's like talking about the inside of the silencer or the sound. It's like, yeah, maybe. But if you don't have them side by side,
right,
the fuck do you know? But one thing, like, I love, when Swarovski sent me the first scope, they were doing their Z6 series. So and their turret, where it had, like, the colored dots where you could set for yards for hunting, makes so much sense because I had 0 to 100. At my next dot, it's a different color on my turret. Was 200, and then I could set the next one for 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then it's like, if it's 350, you just go right in between. If it's 325, you just bias a little past the it was perfect for hunting because you're trying to hit vitals. But they came out with the Z8 in that regard, so you have an 8X erector. So that's better. You get, wider range magnification. But the turret on that, if you order like their tactical turret, I don't know what the hell they call it, but it snaps on and off, and it's just got these little rings, and it's got a number on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And, I can set that. So I can use my ballistic app and, get my muzzle velocity and enter all the stuff. And and it gives me a rough, okay, here's your dope. Then I go to my range, and I shoot still at those, and I get my exact dope. And then I can adjust that. And so when I'm hunting, it's like, I think I'm shooting something at 50 yards. So I got 100 yard zero. So just, put the dot on it, shoot. Oh, shit. Well, there's something at 450 yards. So all I do is between the 4 and the 5, and bam. So for hunting or practical use, even if you're shooting steel targets, like, I really love that turret. And to me, that turret is worth, as much as the quality of the glass in a Swarovski. Like, that's a real innovative thing. But I think from a consumer standpoint, that's something that you can use and you can understand and someone can show you, to where if you have a cap turret and then you go do the thing and there's no zero stop or any of that. And they did a great job, too, how easy it is to set the zero stop. Because I've got...
probably a night force if you're about to say about zero stops that are almost impossible. You need a PhD for those.
Is it hard too? Because what I'm actually
they're newer stuff I don't know about, but I know they're original. And when the Beast came out, that thing it took.
It's probably terrible because same time frame. What I'm thinking of is on one of my MSR rifles, the Remington MSR.
Mm-hmm.
It had, and they don't make it. They only made a few. It's their Mark 8, but it's 3 to 24.
Okay,
you know, it's on the guns for like CAG or whatever. I don't know. But I have some of those. And there's no information out there. It's impossible. You got to have a PhD to set the zero stop. Like, I tried for an hour sitting there looking at it, took it apart, and I'm like, fuck this, have no idea. I just took the scope off the gun. It's sitting on my shelf up there, and I put a different scope on the gun. Because it's like, I don't know how to set the zero stop and all, and
you got to have the manual, a bunch of tools, an extra hand. Like it's some
ridiculous.
Of those are pretty difficult to use.
Yeah,
so
some of that easy use I think is really good.
It is, and then but it's also looking at what our core consumer or core customer who we're courting with that product is actually looking for as a what's important to them and what they'll pay more for and how difficult it is to do those things, because we're always set in the idea that we have to give you better value than anybody else. That doesn't mean a lower price.
Yeah.
That doesn't, but it does mean a better value. And in order to achieve that,
somebody's got to determine what that means at the end of the day.
And the consumer does, right? They vote with their wallet, but we've got to figure out what we think they're going to do.
I know you'll have an answer, but Matt, how do you determine, or how does Eotech determine who its commercial demographic is? Like, how do you identify that?
Well, we certainly collect some data on our website for people to go and buy off our gear store. So we've got some decent data there. And then we have partners in the industry that are, distributors, resellers, wholesalers that collect data and give us sort of top level data to help us understand it better. And we get reps out in the field talking to people. Ed Shopman, who is our president of North America, runs all sales, product management, customer service, and marketing, et cetera. He spends more time probably in retail stores talking to people than he does in the office, which is a great thing, right?
Yeah, for that. So
that's a big part of it.
Well, Aaron, how do you combat that? Like when I asked you guys about, I told you my PH wanted this particular little aim point because of somebody told him or he read something or whatever, and he's in Africa and they can't buy shit over there. It's like impossible. And so he asked me to go get like this particular thing, and he's very particular, and I sent exact model number, and I just went and bought it. And I was like, he's like, I'll Venmo you. I was like, dude, it's no problem. I'm coming over. I'll take it out of your tip, like whatever. And I get to the store, and I was like, God damn, that's expensive. Like, what the fuck? Like, how are you guys determining that? And,
one of the hardest things to do, I'll give you the hard thing is when you're reading all the comments in social media, right? And everybody wants
social media ain't a real place, my man.
Yeah, everybody wants everything.
That shit ain't real.
Every capability at the lowest price, and it's hard not to sit around and say this is what everybody's demanding. But you have to look at the magnitude of the people that are making these comments. It's like 4 out of 5 dentists agree. Well, it was only 5 dentists. Right,
what I mean? And all their mothers are investors.
Right.
But,
yeah, exactly.
But it also goes back to the Henry Ford comment. Mm-hmm. Like if I asked, if I'd asked people about a bolt gun when we started our company, it would have been some slightly improved variation of the Remington 700.
Absolutely.
Which is just a slightly improved variation of a Mauser from the late 1800s.
And your contemporaries are launching new rifles every 6 months. That are 700 platforms.
So to me, this is what I always, fight, because, I think in your position, like what you said is the right thing and it's reasonable. And I think, in my opinion, as a business leader, your position is to challenge that and to challenge those guys that are just saying, like Ethan, even coming from SIG, was like, well, marketing determines what we should make and then we design something for that. And I'm like, well, if we want to be SIG or we want to be Savage or we want to be Smith & Wesson, that's what you do. But if we want to be H&K or Knight's Armament, that's not what you do. It's like, I expect all of you to be ahead of that curve and tell me what's coming in the future. And that's not always easy. And, and I'm wrong a lot, and it costs a lot of money. But then, it's like our victories, whether it is like the fix or it's some other product, those give us such a success that we can be wrong more often than other people.
Right.
But, I don't know. It'd probably be like a pinch hitter in baseball.
I mean, there's a couple other factors come in. We have a brand ethos, and it's important to make products that fit the attributes of that. And we have a lot of products that we don't make that could probably sell shit ton, make us a lot of money. We just don't want to do for a variety of reasons. And I think one of the reasons is we really consider ourselves post L3 divestiture as a service-oriented organization. It's really important to us that we serve our customers. And part of the way we serve them is by making great products, right? You have guys out there in the market that'll talk about how amazing their customer service is. They don't talk about the fact of how many returns they get. Right. Yeah, they're great at turning around those returns, but shit's always falling apart, right? So part of our customer service mantra is make great products that are quality and provide that great customer service. And it goes down to our supply chain, who we do business with and how we treat those companies. One of the things I didn't mention in the intro is since we bought Eotech, we bought a precision machining business, we bought a anodizing business, and we bought a plastic injection milling business.
That makes
sense.
So
we've got, exactly, it helps us with that. But they do business in other markets as well. And we see how customers treat part suppliers badly, right? So it's really important for us to
that Walmart model rather than as a partner.
You got it. Form partnerships, treat them well, help them grow their businesses. And a big part of that is who we don't do business and what parts of the world we don't do business in. And that contributes to the quality of our product.
That's interesting. Well, I love to hear you say that because to me, I think I've said that since we started Q. It's like people complain about our wait times, once they order a product or whatever, back order. And that sucks. Like, of course, I want everybody in the world to have one of our products. And I want to, live the life of Saddam Hussein being, gold-plated toilets and shit. It's like... But the reality,
gold, not plated.
Oh yeah, that's weak. That was like the Marcos family or something. But it's like the best customer service is done on the front end. What you're saying is that you never need our customer service.
Exactly.
Like that's the best customer service. It's like you just buy the product. You never have to contact us. Yep. And part of the customer service to me is part of like Thomas's job and our marketing department. Let's do videos to educate on all of our products, or if you want to change a barrel, or it's a question that we get every day. Like we just started a new series called YQ. It's like 1 to 3 minute videos, and we take customer service questions or things. That's how we even announced a recall on the fix from a like a process issue. That's a customer service, that we get ahead of it, and you don't need to call us. We're going to educate you on what goes on. Yeah, that's a tricky one.
And when you treat customers like that, they're going to be loyal and they're going to come back, and they don't mind waiting. Kyle came with us yesterday. Told you last night. He ordered a couple of your products. He didn't mind waiting at all. He was excited when he got them. Yeah. I'm a guitar enthusiast. There's a guy, Mule Guitars, really cool company out of Saginaw, Michigan. And he opens it up every single first of the month, 5 o'clock. You go in and place an order. And he really communicates about why it takes him 8 months to make a guitar and how he uses local Michigan suppliers and the process he uses and the time he puts into it. And he has a lifestyle in his business that he doesn't want to mass produce and sort of lose that customer touch. And I'll wait 2 years for him, right?
Yeah, I think communication is really the key. And I know, like me working at other organizations and large organizations, and it's like what you think is professional or corporate culture. It's like we were talking about last night about when I was at SIG and we were going to launch the 320, and the guy in charge of marketing at the time is like, oh, we're going to market it this way, and and I'm part of like 10 people in this little committee, and and I was the only person there other than the CEO that didn't need a job. So I feel like my place is to use, at that time, 25 years experience and what I thought, and I'm not always right, but I'm going to tell you like my gut feeling and the way that I think. And, like my persona in our marketing is a little more abrasive and in your face. And yeah. But with that said, it's like the goal. So it's like, what's our goal? Our goal is to have 10% of Glock's market. And I was like, well, we just compare it to a Glock. Like, bam, I just solved this whole thing. Right. It's like a Still magazine like I still probably prefer the Glock over the SIG 320, but the 320 is better in some ways. So it was like the grip angle, the steel magazine. You can swap the grip module out for different grip sizes without having a lot of components. Like there's some cool stuff to the 320. Sure. They screwed up the bore axis. But anyway, I was like, so we just focus on that, and we just say, hey, Glock, you did a great job. Like you weren't the first to do a polymer frame, striker pistol, but you're the best.
Right.
But you screwed these things up. And of course, here we are 30 years in. There's some things that we could change. Like a plastic magazine is stupid. Like a steel magazine and a handgun is way better.
Right.
This is a better thing. Like the grip angle on the Glock is not right.
Yeah.
And they were just like, and the guy in charge of marketing at the time is like, that's ridiculous. Of course our gun, and he has no technical knowledge at all. He's like, our gun is better than a Glock. We're SIG. And I was like, and we have engineers in this meeting, and I said, you sure about that? And he's like, of course. And I look at him, like a straight face. And Ethan's actually in this meeting with me. And he says, Ethan had shot more rounds through the 320, had been involved in the development. He's like, is the 320 a better gun than the Glock? And Ethan is like, not a liar. And he says, explain better. And he's like, oh, well, it's a better in every regard. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, it's better in this regard, in this regard, in this regard. And this is what we were told was important when we were developing this gun. This is why we're here. But no, we can't quantify fucking better.
Right.
And to me, that was just like an obvious thing. It's like and now, the 320's been successful. They get the military contract and, and they have more than 10% of the market of Glock. But, without that military contract,
it would have been a struggle.
It's a Ruger.
Yeah.
Probably. Well, I didn't mean it to be that snide, but
you don't want to be divisive.
It's just, there's actually lots of great polymer frame striker pistols now where there weren't 20 years ago.
No. It's interesting. The product development and product management. The dichotomy of the two, right? We, at least on our team and on most of those teams, it's the same thing, right? Your product management is your product development, right? Or at least the gatekeeper and guides for product development. And I think there's a line there that most don't see, but product management needs to be guided by sales and marketing. Product development needs sales and marketing as an input only, right? I need to know what you know, but you don't make any decisions on this. But in management, when we're managing that line and trying to, grow, not the innovation side of it, but we need one in green. We need one in this. We need a third button over here. That's where sales and marketing come in and help us grow that product line. But they should only be an input on development. And too many, last time I was here, I didn't talk much about it because I was still really, I was going to say disheartened, but I was pissed off about my whole experience at FN America. But that was a primary reason for my rapid departure from there, because nobody knew shit like from FN America. Like, and I say that right now to the whole world. When it came to product development and product management, they had one guy that kind of might have sort of known some shit, but the leadership didn't. Well, and they were afraid to make a mistake.
It's tough with a foreign-known company, and it's tough with a company that only relies on big government contracts.
And a
lot of foreign-owned companies, it takes them a long time to appreciate the American gun culture.
It does, but to their credit, to the Belgium's credit, FN Herstal saw the writing on the wall, or had been listening enough to say, okay, FN America, you can go and kind of chart your own path and do some of your own things. And that was the pretense that I was hired under. But what it became was this idea of, well, we've hired a bunch of people who really don't know what they don't know. Like, my boss had been there for 3 years at the time. his first year and a half, he was the vice president of R&D. He had been the vice president of product development for the previous year and a half when I got there. We sat in a meeting in the Winchester room, and he actually said, so me and the long gun product manager were talking. He said, so what is a lever action? I said, well, that display case behind you, A6 through 11, those are all lever actions. And he goes, oh, I thought those were shotguns. I said, well, one of them is, but they're all lever actions. He's like, oh, okay. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Dude.
10 minutes later, talking about bolt guns. I said, well, have we considered a straight pull? Because so on a straight pull, does it fire when you close it, or does it have a trigger like a regular gun? So I packed up my shit and said, hey, I got a meeting with Belgium. And I went back to my office and I can't fucking believe I'm here. Like, what the shit's going on?
It's disheartening.
And then, they had a really good pistol, the 509 Edge, which was like their competition ready and all this other stuff. There were issues with the trigger, so I got brought in on it. I talked to the director, and they come back with this 9-month schedule, and the only due out was to determine what the customer means by, what did they say, like squishy trigger or something like that. I was like, whoa, you don't need to do any of that. Just let's compare known samples. I've got lots of guns at home that are good triggers. Let's figure out what a good trigger is, and then figure out the fix
and
for
you
this.
worked for a long time. You were the boss of the best shooters in the world, so this isn't.
I know what a good trigger is, right?
Sure.
So let's quantify. Let's quantify what a good trigger is. Let's not try to figure out what a bad trigger is, right? Because anything other than a good trigger is a bad trigger. We could spend the rest of our life doing this, and let's fix it. And it's like, no, this is the way we do things. And so as I'm having this meeting, I'm typing up my letter of resignation because I can't be here for this, right?
This is the way we do things.
Right.
And the worst thing you can say.
Absolutely. And what I told my boss after that, because it was the same thing, like, well, what can we do to keep you? It's like, there's absolutely nothing you can do to keep me. It's like, I wouldn't have quit if I were coming in to negotiate, right? Because this ends 3 ways. I leave today, or I'm here for a year and you walk me out because you're freaking tired of hearing me complain about the other stuff that we do. Or the third, which I'm really afraid of, I'm here for a year plus, and I wake up one morning and go, shit, it is great working at FN America. Because on that day, I'm going down to the river and I'm washing my mouth out with buckshot because everything that made me me has fucking died. He goes, oh, so we can't keep you. I was like, fuck no, I'm out. And the problem was that they didn't realize how goofy it was to go in those directions. And they were afraid to take a risk. Like, I don't want to fail. I want to do everything I can to hedge that, but if we're not taking any risks, we're not growing. We're not doing the right things.
It's also, to me, it's hard to quantify when you get in larger organizations, like taking a risk and all. And then I've seen, like when I went to SIG, there's only like 6 of us on the executive staff. And then within a year, there's like 24 of us.
Wow.
And like, I'm not the most knowledgeable person about guns, but I'm also not the moron you're talking about.
Right.
And that's harsh. He was ignorant. He didn't know what he didn't know. But who put him in that position to be in charge of people who do? And it's like, if I can't imagine that. But my closest thing was after Cerberus purchased my company. The first year was great. The second year, Bob Nardelli became like the CEO of Freedom Group. And he came in the SHOT Show booth with me and Robbie. And he's got one of his like billionaire friends that's at SHOT Show, and this Bob Nardelli, who's the CEO of Home Depot. And all. He's a real piece of shit. But he walks him in there, and it's the MSR rifle, which was an awesome rifle that we had built for Army Delta, for their snipers. And, it did a lot of cool things that really hadn't been done before. And, but it's a precision. It's for them in the Hindu Kush to shoot dudes at a mile away with it and have a gun that they can carry on their own in a backpack with lots of ammo. So, kind of bridging the gap between the 308 and the 50 cal. And he walks up to it and he's like, Robbie, tell my buddy, like whatever, Leroy Johnson, about how great this thing is. And it's like, and he goes through the whole spiel and why, this is a unique gun and it's a cutting edge and it's, the contracts that we had won with it. And then at the end of it, Nardelli says, this is the full auto version, right? And I'm sitting there watching, and I was like, oh, my God, we are doomed. This guy is my boss. And this bolt-action sniper rifle, he's like, this is the full auto version, right?
Yes.
And Robbie was, such a politician. Where I would have just been like, oh, my God, what the fuck did you say? I just had to walk away, and I was like, oh, this is done. We are absolutely done. Like, this guy is now in charge. Where his predecessor was knowledgeable about firearms to a degree, but where he was smart enough to identify the people under him that knew what the fuck they were talking about and let them do their jobs.
I think the worst thing the CEO can do is convince themselves that they need to teach everybody else, when it's really the opposite. They need to learn from everybody else, right? And that's my qualm with private equity as well, is that it's that attitude. Hey, we know everything about business, so it applies to your industry, no matter how niche it is. And so
some of it
we're going to teach you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, if I lived to be 200, I would probably by then get a decent handle on business.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so now it's like, well, and of course, like being a man, having an ego, and like for me, we talked about different people. Like, I'm an overachiever. Like, I'm the dumbest person in my family, but I bought all the houses, and so it's like, well, okay, yeah. So it's like, well, I'm young and I think I'm great at everything, and then it's like, well, then you go through these phases. Oh, I'm a total fraud, because you meet somebody that's way smarter than you,
right,
and way more knowledgeable. And so it's always this constant sort of weaving and bobbing back and forth between these things. And then it's like, as trying to mature, like now, even in my late 40s, it's like, well, what do I actually care about? What am I good at? It's like, I'm good at these two things. Like there's 10 things total. I'm good at these two. Mm-hmm. So I understand 6 of the other 8. So I can be involved in that. 2 of these, it's like, is it worth any of my time being involved in that? Is it super detrimental to the business? Right. Who can I hire that I trust, that I believe has the knowledge that can do that? And what kind of oversight can we have there? Okay, I'm comfortable with that. And it's like 90% of my focus needs to go into these 2 things that I'm really good at, because that's what's going to grow our business.
Right.
And I don't need, I need to constantly be learning about manufacturing and production operations. I don't ever need to be an expert. I need to know when someone's full of shit and not good at what they're doing. And the fortunate thing about that is it's pretty easy for me to determine that at the end of every month, because it's like numbers.
Right.
When I deal with Thomas or I deal with Ethan, it's like, I don't know. Marketing is fucking bullshit.
Right.
It's like, marketing is just, do I think it's effective?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
is that what's driving sales?
All it is. Yeah, because I don't know. If I ask Thomas, he'd probably like, yeah, marketing sells all our shit. Mm-hmm. Yep. And if I ask Ethan, he's like, marketing is stupid. Why are you wasting money on that? If you gave us that money, we could develop more products. We could sell them. It's like, okay, well, how do we tell people they need to buy them? And it's just like, both of those things are bullshit. It's like 2 parts of my business that just drain us of money. But okay, is this the way that I believe we conduct our business and that we can be successful? Like, is this are we unique in this aspect? Is it very efficient in conveying information?
Right.
That's where I think about, to circle back to when I talked about, being irritated with you guys in the beginning. It's like Aimpoint and Eotech. It's like it took a fucking 10-minute conversation with you and JB for me to be like, holy shit, you guys are failing at marketing. Like, completely failing, because you just educated me, and I'm so hyped on an Eotech holographic sight now, like, you'll never see anything else on that gun.
Right.
And like, why don't you do this to everybody? Like, why are you keeping it a secret? You guys are being jackasses. Like,
and a lot of it was, L3 put no money into marketing. They didn't know how to market to consumers. Didn't care about it. Were scared of it.
Well, who's leading the business? I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
And then it takes a little bit of time to change course correction after you buy the company. And also, you can lull yourself into believing all those data points, right? Oh, look at all those comments, look how much engagement we have, that kind of stuff. And
I'm Dave Chappelle. Leave that shit in the comments. It ain't a real place.
Exactly. And so, and then you got to understand sort of how people are interacting with you, because it evolves and changes all the time, right? And so you're about to see a lot of changes in marketing with Eotech. It takes a little bit of time. We want to do it right. So we're building up the momentum. And my initial thought process, and we talked about it sort of early in the year when we came up with the plan and strategy, that it was just going to start incrementally rolling out. But they're doing it smarter. What the marketing team's doing is they're aggregating all of the work that they're doing to optimize the costs of it, and then they're going to incrementally roll out a big marketing push and plan across all of our products. It's going to have a lot of education, and it's going to be in a form that is going to engage people better than we've done before.
That's
so
awesome.
We are right on the cusp
See,
of it.
I'm too unprofessional and just impatient to do that. And to me,
I am too, but I have guys that sit around and say like, yeah,
you put us in charge of this. And we'll do. Yeah, I just think for me, it's so hard because it's subjective. So I think us being candid. And, like, I can call Marty Daniel an asshole because he's an asshole. But I also, then I have to humble myself when, like, we fuck up. And I just feel like if I'm transparent and I'm right and there is, like, some science or there are facts that back it up and I don't lie.
Right.
It's like there's something to that. And you're always going to irritate whatever the number is, 10, 20, 30%. But it's like I really need, like, 5% of the business. So,
right.
Like, why am I going to beat myself up about some – nobody. It's like when we talk about like occasionally now, it's just like I kind of layered myself to where I don't have to deal with a lot of my own personal shit, but about once a month somebody gets my phone number that is, they manage money, and they'll call me and they'll be, give me some little spiel, and like once you have kids, you always answer the phone because you're afraid, oh shit,
right.
So anyway, answer these calls, and it's like they give me some little pitch, and I cut them off, and I'm like, okay, what is your net worth? Like, it just ends it for me real quick. It's like if you're younger than me and you're worth more than me, then we talk. And if not, then like, how good are you at managing money? Shit, I don't even pay attention to mine. I got more money than you. It's like, what have you done? So I think about that with the comments too, because I've never had, when I think about who my peers are, whether it's Aaron Hampton or it's Trey Knight or it's Chris Barrett or whoever it is within our industry, people that I respect that I consider my peers, I don't hear you talking shit about me. Right. And like when online, because it is a thing you can get caught up in, and your marketing people get hung up, because I see in our marketing department the people that handle social media will come to me about something. It's like, hey, you can't have 2 beers and call this guy an asshole. Like, well, he's being an asshole.
Yeah,
it's like,
can I have 3?
Yeah. But it's like, well, yeah, maybe I could see where you say it's not professional, but it's also like my comment is, you want to be critical of me, that's fine. I've made more mistakes than you, but what have you ever done that I've heard of?
Right.
Like if you've accomplished nothing in your life that I know of, or particularly not to be that big of an asshole, but in our industry, like what have you done? Because, I've done a lot of things that have been failures or flops or I thought was going to be awesome. And, I'm transparent from the beginning and the product doesn't turn out to be what I thought it would be. It wasn't that I lied. It's just that, I'm hopeful and I'm excited and I'm transparent and this is what I think. But as it goes on, like I'm going to say, this is what happened and this is how we flop. But like you want to be super publicly critical of me. Like what have you done to make me give a shit what your opinion is? Oh, you're 23 and you're on Reddit. Like,
Yeah.
Wait for your mom to call you for dinner.
And that's the hard thing, but it's also the idea of looking at, nowadays, and I think, earlier we were talking offline about, is the world a worse place now or a safer place now or a more dangerous place now than it was 25, 50, 100 years ago? And if you rationalize and normalize for, the population, I think what's changed so much now is the access to information. And now every stupid fuck who would be in their mom's basement just doing mom's basement shit is now online and has a platform and feels the need to share their fucking dumbass opinion in the most vocal and oftentimes vulgar way possible, in an effort to somehow feel attached to other people. And
people are lazy, and it's easy to believe that.
And they usually shit on things that, we've worked our ass off for, and granted, it's not perfect, but it's a step in the right fucking direction.
Well,
one of the things,
if your track record's perfect, you've not done enough.
You haven't done enough.
One of the things I find fascinating is where you read these articles, could be about anything, and they're like, people are outraged about this, that, and the other. And then when you look in the article, the people that are outraged, they're pasting in like 3 tweets from random people.
Right.
You know? And so, I think, one of the fundamental things we try to ingrain in the organization is challenging assumptions. And some of those assumptions are, hey, if you have a certain amount of comments, certain amount of followers, certain amount of engagement, that's important to your brand. And I don't think that's true anymore. And I think educating people on our brand is really important. I think staying to our brand ethos and how we do business, who we do business with, and how we serve customers, that's what's important. That's what's going to sell, not how many comments we have. And, another challenge that we've assumed with respect to suppliers is you can build stuff cheaper in China. We actually did a project last year, and we proved that that is not fucking true.
Yeah. I mean,
you can build a better, less expensive product in the U.S.
Well,
that dynamic has changed.
Well, I mean, I think probably in our collective positions, it is how someone presents it to you. And I know whether it's marketing or product development, whatever, when they come to me with something they want to do, like, they're biased.
Sure.
And all the supporting factors are biased. And I would say, yes, you can absolutely build something cheaper in China. And yes, it's never cheaper in China. And it depends. It's like, what are the metrics that we're looking at? Okay, right. Well, let's figure in COVID. Are we okay with child labor?
Right.
Are we okay with supporting our children or grandchildren's, enemy that they're going to be fighting? I don't know what all the things that we want to, but I do know that like all the high-end electronics and things like that we would think or come from Japan or they come from China, they come from America. And so we can clearly design and build the best stuff here.
Right.
But, it's like, okay, are we okay with this amount of fallout or this kind of quality
You can
control?
Build terrible products cheaper in China. No argument there.
Yeah, and there's good products you can make in China. I think China's probably come a long way, but I just also think that there's never the trust. They're going to steal your intellectual property. I mean, there's just all kinds of things
just dealing
going there
through problems. And it's one of the funniest things for me, this new environmental social governance thing that's taking over the corporate world. And
look at China. America, what are we, like 2% of it?
It's all a sham. You read large public corporations like Apple put out these beautiful ESG plans. Well, guess what? They're making everything in China, right? And where the social and environmental governance is there.
Yeah, if you really believe that, then pull all your shit out of China. Because China, India, like, they're all the ones polluting the world. And it's like we have that, most powerful country, rich people guilt or something. Yeah, we're not the ones doing it. But put your money where your mouth is. But I mean, I think iPhones, if we started making them here, would be $5,000 a piece initially. But when people stop buying them, we would be amazed at how you could make them for and sell them for $1,000 here, just like the Chinese equivalent.
Yeah. And all that stuff takes time, and it's a less difficult proposition if you give yourself time to make those changes instead of arbitrary line in the sand that says today this is never again, no more. And that's kind of where we've been working, is whatever we do next and everything that we need to rectify. Should we bring it into one of our newly vertically integrated manufacturers? Should we outsource it here? Should we bring this in-house? Those are all decisions that, we have to look at. It's going to be product dependent. It's going to be feature set dependent. And to that end, like, one of the things that kind of was ungood when we left L3.
Ungood.
Wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, but it was certainly ungood.
Now is more better.
It's much better at this point. But we lost our ability to sell night vision and thermal products to law enforcement because our break from L3 Harris was a bad break between us and our sister company, Insight, so we no longer have access to their product. And we never sold it commercial. We always sold it to law enforcement, but we were the tie-in for law enforcement.
Were there commercial restrictions, or it was just a company imposed?
Company imposed commercial restrictions.
Okay.
So we didn't, for the night vision stuff, we never sold it commercially, but we did service a lot of agencies throughout the country, and we could no longer do that. So we had to start our own line of night vision, our own line of thermal, and so the first products out are actually some analog night vision devices that we built, or that we had a partner to build. So we've got a full lineup of stuff, but as an example, this is our Bino NV. So it's a analog tube night vision device, binocular.
So that's, so relatively traditional. Would be a competitor to what?
To a PVS 31. So it's your, we're using L-bit high FOM tubes. So these are every bit as good as what's issued to the United States Marine Corps. Right, few minor differences from a 31. Manufacturer of the tubes is a big difference. Of course, L3 makes 31 tubes. These are made by L-bit. We have a illuminator on them as opposed to as opposed to on a 31. There's no illuminator. Battery life.
And if you've never used them, doesn't seem like a big deal until you go into your garage to get, or you're somewhere in complete darkness. And magnifying light when there is no light, you still have no light.
That's it. You're intensifying an image that is not getting there. So having that illuminator is a pretty big deal.
Oh, that's cool as shit.
And the battery life is far superior.
What kind of batteries these use? 1, 2, 3s now?
Single AA.
Okay, so still AA. That's what it's been for a long time.
If you're running a lithium AA on these binos, you're looking at in the neighborhood of about 16 hours of useful life. So
what is that, like 8 times what it used to be, 10 times what it used to be?
Well, on
20?
a set of 31s with the L3 tubes, which are without getting into great detail, they're filmless versus thin filmed. In order to be filmless, you have to put a lot more high voltage across to multiply those electrons.
Oh, so the battery life does. Well, what's the advantage of it? You get a better image?
You get a higher resolution or a higher contrast rate.
Yeah.
But everything is relative, right? It's in certain lighting conditions. So, they're really great tubes. Like, I can't say anything even somewhat negative about them. They're phenomenal tubes. But these are, every bit as good, right? In any of the measuring parameters that we use.
If they were slightly less, if I've got an illuminator in those, I would pick these.
Yeah, and the illuminator,
in my experience of actually
and
using
the battery
these.
life. The illuminator and the battery life make a huge difference for them. And so you can see the size of those. They're very typical 18 millimeter tubes, image intensified tubes, which is pretty much what everybody has.
So these are going to be available commercially?
These are available commercially right now.
They are right now?
They're at distributors. They're shipping them. You
Can you say the cost? No.
I can tell you the cost in a bit. I don't want to lie to you and have everybody mad.
A range.
I've got to look
price?
at. I'm going to have to take a look and give you the price. But so this is our Bino Night Vision Compact, or Bino NVC. These use a 16 millimeter tube, so they're smaller, lighter, and faster. So they incorporate.
Do you know, like, how much lighter? Do you know?
It's a few ounces. You want to? I'll give you the spec
tell me. A few ounces, like on your head. It's like a silencer.
It's around 2.5 ounces.
It's lighter.
Yeah.
It's considerably lighter. And I don't know, 10%,
and it's a shorter,
hanging off your head.
It's also a shorter form factor.
Yeah, you're right. So the lever effect, it's closer to your head. That's going to be better.
Yeah, it's closer to your head, but it's also less of a snag hazard because they're only extending this far out past your brim as opposed to the other.
I'm not that tactical, but
yeah. But really, who is, right? But same as on these, we included an illuminator on them. You've got an aux battery pack if you really want it. It's more for counterbalance than weight because this model you're still getting about 16 to 18 hours of battery life, which is phenomenal.
With a single AA.
With a single AA, lithium. You go to alkaline, you're
It's
going to...
like 50 cents, Thomas. Like 50 cents.
Well, it's about $1.10 for lithium. You go alkaline, you're going to lose a few hours. But, I mean, you're worth it, right? Spend the money.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about these. We've got a lot of law enforcement partners that are really excited about these.
Well, the hard question is, what do you lose from these?
You lose some of the FOM, or resolution over signal to noise. So FOM is an interesting number, right? It's the figure of merit. And it's how we rate the performance of a set of image intensifier, or a single. It's how we rate the performance of an image intensifier tube, okay? So it's the resolution divided by the signal to noise.
So is that equal throughout, like, whatever the distribution of light is, or the consumption, or
it's done.
Like you have to magnify?
Right. No, it's done at it's
a particular,
10 to the -4 or something, which would be about the equivalent of overcast starlight.
Jesus
So
Christ.
really dark.
All right, so
right?
sort of subjective.
No, the problem comes in that it doesn't really mean a lot.
Well, okay. Well, tell me, because I'm so ignorant to this. When would you choose these over that if you're using it? When would you choose the bigger versions over it?
So if you're hooked on FOM, you're going to choose the big ones 10 times out of 10, because these are 2,000. Minimum FOM is 2,000 on these. On high FOM, which is what the military gets, the minimum FOM is 2376, right?
Whatever that means.
And that's the point. But here's what FOM really does.
Because when I just looked through the little pinholes, I didn't need that much contrast or resolution. Like, I could see, just like I'm looking at you right now.
Well,
like it seemed unnecessary. I mean, for me, from my uneducated, very amateur standpoint, that has a lot of night vision and thermal, that was so good. I would rather have smaller than lighter than the resolution and clarity and contrast that I had there.
And you're going to be really close to this. So where the signal gets noisy, right? And I'm sure you've seen it on occasion, is where it's getting so much light through, like it's not quite dark enough, and it is multiplying those electrons so much that you start to see static, right? Almost, right? Yeah. So the resolution and that signal to noise ratio is what gives us that figure of merit. And what that was used for was, way back in the day, ITT, the State Department came out and said, you can't ship these things out, right? It'll be a detriment to our soldiers. We need some performance measure so that we know what can be shipped and what can't be.
Okay, so
and that's how they came up with figure of merit. Now, what figure of merit doesn't take into account is that it is not really a system level measurement, right? It is a measurement of the image intensifier tube as rated by the manufacturer.
All right, so I don't even think we got to go more into it. So it's bullshit. It's
basically bullshit. It does give
like
you something to look at,
like measuring a number for dB for silencers at a given temperature at a given distance. All these things,
right.
It's going to be different for everyone else.
Me,
like usability. I want usability.
Right. And FOM makes it easy, right? So as a consumer, they look at it and say, if all things are equal, I'm going to go with the one with the highest FOM, right? And
if all things are equal, but if you're telling me it's 20% lighter, it's hanging off my head, it's 20% shorter, you have the same battery life.
Well, and market data dictates that when I say all things considered, what I really mean is price.
Because because I was going to say, I think I'm in the minority with a lot of things, because there's been times in my life where, I'm working with the government and the military, and I'm not really using my guns. I'm relying on the information I get from the guys that are using our products to, in the end, like the honey badger, like to shoot people.
Right.
Like, I'm not doing it, but I'm in a situation in my life right now where I am the user of our product, and I dictate like what I think is good through hunting or these sorts of things. And, that has to do with, oh, yeah, you want the most accurate gun in the world. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So 1911, so the Army Marksmanship Unit can build you a 1911 that's so accurate. What about reliability? Because to me, reliability, because I shoot stuff that can kill me now.
Right.
Reliability, more important than accuracy.
Yep.
And you start really, what is a practical priority list for a product and what's important and who determines that?
Right.
And, the federal government is generally not great at a lot of things. So I don't really want them determining what it is. It's like I need to get my ass out and use the product and what is really usable. Like we make, in our line of silencers, we make short silencers, to me, that are very practical. I don't notice the shot if I'm in a high-stress situation and I shoot something.
Right.
And I don't care how high stress it is. If I forget my ear pro, and Thomas and I were just in Argentina shooting some stuff, 2 or 3 times I forgot my ear pro? And it's like high stress, like I'm making a shot off off shooting sticks at 500 yards on a red stag with a 16-inch 6.5. I have to make a great shot. Otherwise, like my day is shit.
Right.
I wound an animal. I feel like shit. We're tracking it for all day. It's just a shit show. And I'm totally focused, and bam, instantly I like throw my gun. I cry like a baby. I'm like, I hope that motherfucker doesn't need another shot. Like, where is my ear pro? Thomas, your job is to tell me I need my ear pro. It's his job. This is job. It's good. Job description. You haven't seen your new jobs.
You're running low on the number one in heart now.
No, his stock is still rising. But so I see it. But it is interesting because I think with our industry more than a lot of others, it's like guys go and collect all this stuff and they look at numbers.
That's it.
And this is the thing.
Give me an easy way to tell me it's the best.
Yeah, so what are you doing with it? Because I use this all the time. And we have silencers that are bigger. We'll just say we have silencers that are quieter than the ones that I use for all of my stuff.
Right.
Unless I'm shooting with my children or I'm trying to be as quiet as possible. But I don't use them when I'm practically using a firearm because, like, the added length and weight doesn't benefit me because when I'm at high stress, I'm shooting an animal or whatever I'm doing, training, and I'm trying to, recreate that stress, the stressful environment. I don't notice a difference. Only if I'm thinking about, okay, well, let's listen to these sound-wise. And
exactly.
Yeah, and
but we look for that easy way out, right? Because I've never, for all of the thousands, at this point, tens of thousands of people that I've talked to who have either bought our products, used our products, or that I've trained practically, who can't get on target, can't stay on target, can't shoot a group. It's always a guns problem or an accessory on the guns problem. It's never this guy. It's never the nut behind the trigger. It's always a material solution. I got shitty ammo.
It's another ego thing.
Exactly.
Wait, the train is coming, but
and so
Thomas, what do I say when we take a trip to Africa and I don't shoot my best? What's my excuse? I didn't go and practice and train.
Yeah,
it's never an equipment problem.
But that's always the issue. Like, and I should caveat what I said earlier with, I've trained and I've trained with
the greatest
tip
shooters
of the
in the
spear
world,
guys, and the greatest shooters in the world.
Even better, the guys that train the tip of the spear guys.
And those guys are all very, very much into the I fucked that up. Like, what do I need to do to do that better?
Well, I mean, I think when you're the best, that's
right.
Like if you want to continue to grow, that's what you have to
and
take.
you know that you've got the best equipment, right? You've taken that out of the equation. Yeah. So the problem is, though, the average consumer who spends the kind of money, to buy a set of binos, right? They don't need them. They want them. They're cool to have. They're nice to have. I get it. But what they're looking for is an easy way to show that they're an expert. And that FOM number does it, or that DB rating does it. Price tag sometimes does it.
Well, okay, since you won't divulge price like a jackass,
I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to have it on the little thing. So stop asking about it, so that way when it shows,
stupid. Have some balls, Aaron.
Listen. I've got tons of balls. I just got a shit fucking memory. All right.
Do you have any idea what these are going to cost? We'll ignore Aaron.
No.
Okay, good answer. Good answer. Your answer was appropriate.
I know the general range, but as
I'm going to give it to you.
Aaron
We're
pointed
going
out,
to
there are a
go
number of
back
products.
and redo the shit. So that you saying,
we-
how much is it? And
we got to go build some rifles, man. Okay, okay. So we got to move along because we're going to have to go to the office, build some guns.
So
What? Wait. What? How, I want to know, how are you guys going to market these to consumers so they know they're available and they know the stuff that you just taught me?
So this is kind of what Matt was talking about with our revamp of marketing and how we're doing marketing. So we're going pretty heavy with the how-to and the why videos via our website. There's a bit of a marketing push through some of the channels, but the issue with these is that for the most part we're running up on sellout of every order just because of law enforcement commitments, to refresh
So they're going
product
to take
and that kind of
priority?
thing. Yes. I mean, yeah, it totally makes sense. And these are, but we do, we have gotten some out to every one of our sales channels, and we're out there trying to, show that you can get the high quality stuff now. You can get it directly from us through our warranty and everything else. What I want to say about these is that the reality is we'll probably always carry this lineup. I mean, obviously we're going to do product improvement in advance, but our real goal is really to just use this as our gatekeeper and our, relationship builder as we develop digital night vision. We have no desire to become or to buy an analog tube manufacturing company, right?
Yeah, it's been the same for what, like 60 years?
Well, you think about it, the Starlight scopes came out in 1960. Generation 1 night vision came out in 1970. Generation 2 night vision came out in 1980. Generation 3 night vision came out in 1990. It's 2022 and we're still on generation 3.
So they skipped a few decades.
Well, we're kind of getting to that apex moment, right? We went from green phosphor to white phosphor, and that's kind of like our 3+, and L3 developed filmless technology, and so that was like considered the Gen 3+, kind of wanted to be Gen 4, but the government who decides on those generations never said there's another. So technically we're still at generation 3 since 1990. The problem with this is it's an analog signal. It's a pass-through device. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because the light is traveling at the speed of light. So there's
Star
no
Wars.
image blur. There's no all this other goofy stuff going on with it because it's true to life. As soon as you start trying to do
no lag, like with
no
thermal
lag.
and stuff. Yeah.
So with thermal, you've got huge lag, right? I mean, you're shooting at an animal that was right here, and now he's over there because what you're getting that lens, that glass to lens or that lens to lens lag time is greater than life. So now if you try to do that on a helmet-borne system, you're completely fucked. They're throwing up, vertigo is bad, it's a horrible situation. But a digital signal is the future. So our goal has been, ever since we became a private company, is to, if we're going to go or stay in the night vision device realm, we're going digital. And that is a long, really hard road to hoe. We acquired a company in January of this year. Matt would probably be better to tell you about that one.
But Thomas still number one in my heart. So
Yeah. That's a
him
good
around.
place to be. Doesn't pay a lot, but it's
like
nice.
little sister.
I only make like $15 an hour.
Ooh, I hope that there's no way we don't have anybody that makes that little money. I don't know, maybe intern. But
Yeah,
most intern,
he's
like
like
most
15.
interns are like unpaid, but I'm actually against that. So, well, easy for you. It ain't your fucking checkbook.
Yeah, no shit. Well,
I said
mean,
you're number one in my heart. You're not like sharing a checkbook with me.
So you've got what 1 more or 2 more semesters before you can't be a fucking intern anymore.
Oh, he ain't going to
You
college.
got to be between. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's
Yeah,
got 1 or 2 more semesters, and then
He's
got to
got
become an employee or
6
get
months
the fuck
to
off.
improve to prove that he's that,
Q material.
well even tougher Thomas material.
Ooh, yeah.
Thomas
you
got
better
high
stay cheap
standards.
or you're gonna get the fuck out.
No, hey, when it's me and Thomas, cheap ain't a thing. Like, you got to go through a probationary period, but you just got to perform. If he can't perform, it don't matter if he's cheap. Like, you know, like the worst product is the least expensive.
Can be.
Yeah, we need quality. I mean, Thomas and I, we're up here. Yeah, we're right up here.
Mm. And
So
if
that's where
you're like
Ryan's
me,
gonna
the
get to.
interns need to be even higher, right? Because eventually they're going to settle. Like, you're getting his best.
No, because he's got a lot to learn. So Thomas gives to. But I hope he goes to here because maybe that'll motivate Thomas to like kick it up a notch.
Okay. Is there another notch? I thought he would. I
Yep.
mean, being number 1 in your heart, I
Yep.
figured he was fucking max performance.
Well,
Always another.
always. See,
All right.
that's why he's
Hey.
number 1 in my heart right there.
Listen,
right there.
I saw it in that moment. I fucking understood it. Like, I didn't before. Now I get it.
Thomas wants to be great at what he does, just like I do, and he wants to be the best, and that's not compared to everyone else. Like one thing I love about Thomas's videos, he's not from our industry. So as I do
It shows.
hunting videos, they're not traditional hunting videos.
Right.
They're fun to watch. It's entertaining. We get to a fucking point. We're not trying to have a 22-minute episode so we can sell 8 minutes of commercials.
Right.
Well,
sadly, that brings me back to a previous point. The idea that, one of the things that makes Thomas great at what he does for you is that he's not from this industry. So there's no real preconceived notions about what it should be. So he's looking at it with a different eye. He's looking at it with a different flair to production quality. And that stuff is really good. And every organization needs that. But there are key places where that's not what you should have.
no.
As a good example, HK USA hired a CEO from the tire industry. And then everyone wondered why
As
he was
did
only there
Eotech.
for my
My
there for 12
predecessor at
months.
Eotech, yeah.
He didn't have any gun-related experience at all. He was just a business guy. And in some ways that can be good. And having engineers come to you that have no relevant experience, you get some outside stuff that you would have never gotten from the guys who were involved in it. But leading that, directing that, managing that has to be somebody who understands the product and the market space and the consumer. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. So I think with Thomas, that's fucking awesome. Like, all the good videos I've ever seen from our industry came from production crews that had fuck all to do with our industry. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's different. It looks better. It's not watching Shooting USA over and over again, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with our industry when you talk about leadership. Like the traditional industry, whether it's marketing or a lot of individuals, like, I don't really relate or care for them. But nuances to our industries, with guns being so polarizing, with it being, a partisan issue.
Mm-hmm.
There are nuances, I think, if you haven't been in the industry for very long, that will bite you in the ass with a quickness.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not, I'll get, we were talking about all sorts of business ideas earlier, and we had a guy came up, and he's a huge supporter of SOCF's Special Operations Care Fund, and he bought one of our guns for $210,000 at an auction. So my man's balling. And he came up here, did a build with his family, and he's just a great guy. And he was talking to me, and we're just talking about different aspects of business, our personal lives. And he ended up, like, he's got enough money where he ended up with people who work for him that all they did was donate his money to charity.
Mm-hmm.
And he started looking at that, and he's like, And what he told me, and the conclusion he came to after, a dozen years of this, and he thought it was the right thing. He and his wife, who had built a business together and became billionaires, they thought this was the right thing. Whatever it is, like Bill and Melinda Gates, like, oh, we're going to save the world by clean drinking water. And he's like, what he realized was there's so much wasted between him and filtering it through a charity and getting to what he says. What I realized was what I'm good at is business, and that employs a lot of people. He's like, the most charitable thing I can do is grow my business, because he's like, the money I'd give away every year, I could hire 200 people that actually help the company to grow. And he's like, that's a charitable thing.
Yep, absolutely.
And for him, he's like, I don't care about charity anymore. And he's a real sweet guy. And he didn't mean it in a bad way, but his thought process is like, this is what I'm great at.
Right.
And this is the only thing I'm good at. And I can spend a lot of time and money, but like, where does the money go to that I give to charity? But if I grow the business and I invest in a community where I have a company and I have a factory and I do these things and I can employ another, 5% of this community, that's
makes
charitable.
a difference.
Yeah.
And it makes a real definitive difference.
Yeah,
It does.
So that was
I've
pretty
been
cool.
on the board of a nonprofit for a number of years, Easter Seals, and a lot of what we do is dealing with people with disabilities, dealing with people with mental health disabilities. And one of the number one things that we do is help them get employed and stay employed.
Yeah.
It's one of the number one things you can do for somebody with mental health issues.
Yeah, I mean, how good is that for mental health in general?
Bingo.
Like
It's
having a purpose every day and something to go to, consistency.
And we work with them at Eotech. We've hired folks with autism. I have a 3-year-old with autism, and it's a really meaningful thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I mean,
that's charitable.
Part of starting Q is I have a son with pretty severe executive functioning issues, and it was recognized when he was in the 1st grade. They asked us to remove him from school. And so he went through, basically 10 years of pretty intense remediation for all that stuff. And what they told me at the time was he doesn't learn in a traditional way. And it turns out we go through all this testing, and he's got dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, like all these executive functioning things. And they're like, there's a chance he's never able to have a job. But if you do these things intensively, it turns out, by the time he's in like 11th grade, he's fine. School's not hard for him. He's creative. He's really intelligent. And now he can function in like a normal process and learn a normal way. And, oh, God. So, in the end, it's like I spend $1 million on school, but the kid can have whatever life he wants now. He doesn't have to live with me forever. He doesn't have to come work for my company. But, it was one of the reasons I started Q was, well, shit, I've got this son, and he might not ever be able to have a job. And he may live with me forever. That's okay, but he needs to have a purpose.
Right.
And if I control a company, we can find something that he's good at. And now it's like it's irrelevant. Like, he's fine. And he's an adult now. But, that was, So, going through these challenges with, like, parenthood and all that, it affects my business decisions, the way I deal with employees, or that affected a great deal of how I deal with my employees. And they have a personal issue, whether it is they're going through child custody, they're going through a divorce, they're going through some sort of illness, and I want to take a personal interest in our employees. And and I hear it from you and some stuff you said compared to if you're still L3 and you're this big company, and it's like you got some Bob Nardelli looking at numbers like, oh, Kevin Brittingham's the highest paid guy, fuck him, like, let's screw him out of that $10 million. Hey, I just saved the company $10 million. Like, yeah, maybe.
It's amazing the resources you can get with kids with these issues. My son just got into therapy early in the year, and within 3 months, he went from nonverbal, just yammering on to articulating sentences. What I found out when he was yammering at me very argumentatively, but I didn't understand a word he said. And when he finally started talking, what I realized is he just really wanted some fucking pizza.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that's what we're having for lunch, actually.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, what? So what else? So we have these. These are.
So
Can we get better stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
However, so, this is phenomenal, right? I mean, they really are. All right. And as far as pricing goes, the full size or MSRP is $12,500, which sounds like a lot, but believe me, it's a steal. All right. Our compacts are $12,925. That's MSRP. So you'll see them street a little bit lower than that. But
well, let me ask you this. So this will be the equivalent of like, well, not the equivalent, but it's the same idea of like a PVS 14. Like that's like where this started.
Well, yeah. So your PVS 14 is a monocular.
Oh, it's the monocular.
Right.
What's the binocular?
PVS 31.
Okay. Oh, so that's what I've got actually.
Yep. So
Well,
these are
how much are those?
So you can get a new set for right in that $13,000 price range.
Oh, they're that expensive.
But we're actually cheaper, or I should say less expensive when you calculate the total package, because with either one of these,
the illuminator.
Yeah, well, the illuminator as well. So we have a few differentiators. One of the big ones for me, I do enjoy the illuminator, but I always have an illuminator on my weapon platform. So, but even if you discount the illuminator, those binos have two features that 31s don't have. One is a fail safe. So if you're climbing up a ladder, you tilt your head up too high with a set of 31s, they're going to shut off because they believe that they've been flipped up.
Oh,
our mechanism won't. So if you're climbing a ladder there, you can't keep looking up. You got to kind of stay close to the horizon and just glance up.
Not important until it is.
Not important until it is, and when it is, it's holy fuck. That was the worst thing that ever happened. And then the other thing is for our MSRP, you're also getting a hard case, a Wilcox mount, which, as you know, is $400 by itself. And then all of your filters and sacrificial lenses. So you're getting a full kit. If you get the cheapest PVS 31 from one of the largest online retailers, number one, you're going to wait 6, 7, 8 months to get it, and two, you're getting just the device, no battery pack, no Wilcox mount, soft case, and some batteries. Well, that's it.
Oh, well, I mean, I have a pair, and I didn't even realize how much they cost. So I'm not the average customer, I guess.
Right.
How do you get these to a budget that a regular dude can afford? That's into guns, or he's into hunting, or he wants night vision, for whatever reason.
That's a good question. If you're trying to go premium, with the higher FOM stuff, you can't. Like that's the simple answer. You cannot. I-squared tube manufacture is hard as woodpecker lips. Like and the fallout rate is
the most southern
high.
thing said
there
on the
you
podcast.
Go. So
hard
far.
as woodpecker
so
lips.
Far. So it's you're paying for tribal knowledge and the difficulty in doing it, right? So
to me that sort of sounds like, when you talk about analog night vision, that's like a dozen years ago I purchased from Mike Allen, who was the pistol smith at an Army unit, who did all the 1911s. He built me a 1911. He had like a 4-year wait, and I got the Good Buddy deal, and it's all hand fitted, and it was $60-something. And it's like, well, that seems like building analog night vision shit to me. Where it's some old world craftsmanship, attention to detail, like an analog device.
Probably worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we're really, other than changing the phosphor color, we're not significantly ahead of 1990, right? And an Accurized 1911 is, generally speaking, for that price point, specifically speaking at that price point, is a work of art.
Yeah.
And a finely crafted piece of kit.
It's probably 2 weeks of someone's life.
Yep. And these tubes,
skilled person's life.
These tubes, even though they're expensive, they are mass produced. There's just a high fallout rate. the yield is very low because of all of the things that the processes they have to go through and the time that it takes. And then once they're sealed up, if there's a leak or the high voltage isn't right, or you're going to have, one of the big things that scares the hell out of me right now as we're starting to ship these out to consumers is an inherent fact of tubes is black spots or dead spots inside.
Yeah, if you've had any night vision,
you'll know that they're there. But if you just spent $13,000 on a set of them and you see a black spot, you're like, I want my money back, or swap this out. Like, no, killer. That's just a part of
analog and
right. So
tubes.
that's the hard part, right? So
it's managing expectations, which should be marketing.
Yeah.
Well, so what's the thing? What's the next technology? You what's up?
I had a question that I wanted to ask, because what you were just saying was what I wanted to ask. How long before that becomes like a pair of sunglasses when you don't have something hanging off your face 7 inches?
That's a great question, and that's what we think the future is. But this will never be that. This cannot be that, because of the overall size and the requirements, there. So when we talk about FOM level, the reason that I say that it's not real is because it's only the tube, right? So the manufacturer puts it into a set of perfect optics, essentially a perfect PBS 14, and measures the performance. And based on that performance, that tube gets a spec sheet that says this is its resolution, this is its signal to noise, here's where the spots are, and it's high FOM, or it's low FOM, or it's this, or it's that. But then it goes to someone else like Eotech, and we assemble a set of goggles. Well, if I'm building these in my basement, do you think my optics are as critical to me as they are to Eotech or to even an L3 Harris? Like, it's not. So the real performance measure is as a system, but FOM only measures that tube.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
seems
so
dumb.
It seems that way, but it's important because it's kind of starting with the melody, right? For a song, if the melody sucks, doesn't matter what the words are. The rest of the song is going to be shit. You can't make a shitty tube better, but you can make a great tube shitty.
Things are cool.
Yeah, I just came up with that. I'm kind of proud of it. But to answer your question about making these smaller, where they're a set of glasses, something like that, you'll never be able to do it with analog technology.
So then, what's the next technology? What's going on?
Digital,
Come on,
baby.
man. TikTok.
Digital, baby. Digital.
That's what. When you guys gonna have that?
Well, we're probably we have it, but in a consumer friendly package, we'll have in about 18 months. Is kind of where we're at with a monocular.
Well, okay.
Right now we have the VHS and CD player. You had to get the dual one when the VHS was starting to go away and you're starting to get CDs, right?
And the Laserdisc tried
pretty
to slip
soon, right? Pretty soon we'll have the CD player, and then we'll get to the MP3.
Yeah. So the issue is with an analog device, right? All I can ever do with this is look through it. Right? Everything that's going to happens inside of this unit. And if I want to transmit this image or ship it out somewhere, I've got to put a camera or something behind this.
So with digital, are you going to be able to do it from Bluetooth, or you plug in? Like, what do we know?
Wi-Fi, plug in direct through A-Aron. I can send my image, what I'm looking, my helmet-borne system, whatever I'm doing. So we're taking
that's a huge step forward, Kid Bill.
We're taking two paths. All right. So one is a pure CMOS solution. So
I don't know what the hell that means. That's some military acronym bullshit.
It's not. That's your a digital camera is a CMOS based chipset.
That's a stupid name.
I concur. But so what you're doing here is this is a gain device. Right? An image intensifier is a gain device. In the simplest terms possible, photons come in one side. They pass through a high microchannel plate, which turns those photons into electrons, and then they pass through a high voltage layer that multiplies those electrons. And then it hits a phosphor screen, which turns those electrons, well, it goes through a whole bunch of freaking fiber optics, but outside of that.
Thank God for smart people.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
When it hits the phosphor, those electrons turn back into photons, which your eye can pick up. And it does this basically at the speed of light, right? Or as I like to say, at the speed of life. So it's so fast that you're seeing everything in real time.
Did you coin that term, speed of life?
I should. That's like carpe
what I'm naming
noctem.
the
We
podcast,
should
speed
stick
of
that.
life.
Dude,
the speed of life.
It's like his 12th one I've heard since I've known him. My man, he's gold with that.
I have
It's
my moments. I
ridiculous.
just can't remember this shit.
It's his hood roots.
It's my hood life. All right. So
You are the yuppiest white man I've ever known, honestly.
Jesus H. Christ, you haven't met enough people then. But that's all we can do with this, right? And so what we've done is we've taken a dual path. So we have a pure CMOS, which is a non-gained digital night vision sensor. So you can look at it as a digital camera for low light, right? Our performance is fantastic, but it'll never be as good as a gain system.
Then what's the other path? Come on, get to it, man. You're
path
taking too long.
is what we call EBAPS. It's an electron bombarded silicon chip. So essentially what we have is we've scaled this to be much smaller. And we're using a gain system so that we're doing the same thing. We're transforming those photons to electrons, multiplying those electrons by passing them through a high voltage current, and then instead of hitting phosphor and turning them back to photons, we have a specialized silicon chip that translates those electrons into a digital data output that we can then put to a display. Jeez. So we go from gaining electrons to a digital video display. But now I can take that sensor, or I can take that sensor and take that signal and put it anywhere. So now I can go from something this big to that big.
With the tubes?
Yeah. Well, our tube is just different and it's smaller.
Mm-hmm. Smaller. Well, is this a technology and performance enhancement to where it's a cost increase or?
So with our CMOS, which will be our first, the problem with digital night vision right now is that in the professional community, it's looked upon as a novelty or a toy, right? It's just cheap stuff you get from China for your kids to play with for $300 and they can go look at animals out at Disney, right? What we're doing is changing that landscape, and we want to show that digital has a place in the professional use case. So our goal right now with our first product launch for the commercial side is going to be at about 60 to 70% of the price of a PVS 14 with comparable performance all the way to Starlight, right? So the problem with our CMOS, because it's not a gained sensor, is that with no ambient lighting, with no auxiliary lighting, no IR, no nothing, our performance falls off at about Starlight. So anything up to Starlight, we're going to be on track with that PVS 31 or that PVS 14.
Well, do you just not put an illuminator on?
We can put an illuminator on it. So, or you can use your on-gun illuminator. You can any kind of illumination. We're right back up to the same performance, if not better. But the goal is, of course, to get it with completely passive, right? But that takes time. And what people don't realize is what we talked about earlier. The first Starlight scope, first image intensifier was 1960. It took this long to get this good. We're 5 years in. So it's going to take us time to get that good. But what we can do in between, passively and illuminated, is fucking amazing. Like, I can now because I'm not going direct view. And where we've cracked the code is our processing algorithm. So we're processing this fast enough so that there's no video lag. You can wear this as a head-borne system.
Yeah, it's a problem with thermal.
That's the problem with thermal. There's lots of lag, and the reason you get that lag is because you're processing that signal in order to change it so that it can be displayed.
So you guys are knee deep in it, and we're 18 months out. Commercial sales
from the first commercial.
So we're going to see improvements that we discussed, and we're going to see a better price point.
You're going to see a lower price point. And then the next steps are going to be going with our EBAP system, which is actually a gain system. And we've already got head-borne systems that we have government development programs for that are, they're head and shoulders above anything else that's out there. And because it's a digital signal, because it's a purely digital signal, that means we can have a thermal overlay. That means that I can export what I'm seeing directly to whoever I like, whether Eotech or another secure system.
Not just the video, but the metadata.
The metadata, and I can import directional data, wayfinder, destination, waypoints, Blue Force tracker.
Jesus.
I have a true HUD as though I'm in Call of Duty.
It's what Garmin was doing 20 years ago.
Yeah, but I can't do that with an analog device. I've got to have a pure digital signal to be able to do that. So the only way ahead, the only right way ahead is what we can do. And our systems are totally ready and in use on systems or vehicle platforms. We're on the Apache right now. We're on the Joint Strike Fighter. We're on other DoD programs. But translating that into soldier-borne was not something that the company we acquired was able to do or even thought about. But that's all we do.
Do you have on the landscape like a weapon-mounted system?
We do. We do.
For thermal, I-squared.
So essentially an I-squared. Like right now, we also offer an I-squared clip-on device. We offer a mid-range and a long-range.
Okay.
And
okay. So you have that. So like clip-on, so like inline in front of your scope.
Inline in front of your scope. That's 525. I'm going to make something to go in front.
Sure. Yeah.
And we also have clip-on thermals as well.
So those are available now.
Those are available right now.
How does a consumer get them?
So any of the major online retailers, be it Optics Planet or Eotech, EotechGear.com, you can pick them up right now. So our entire catalog is available. We've got 2 different models of clip-on thermals, 2 different models of clip-on I-square. We've got our Bino NV compacts, our Bino NV. We also have a monocular, essentially a PVS 14.
What's delivery time? Do you know?
2 days.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
okay.
If you order from our website, they're in stock right now.
What about this? That honey badger sitting in front of you. That's my gun. What would you recommend I put in front of that?
So I would go. We have a monocular, our PVS 14,
so put
with
it
a weapons mount. Yep. So you put it on just like your magnifier, and then you could flip it to side when you don't need it, or just take it off at night, because you have an IR switch for it. So that's the best way to do it, and it would be the best for this. And then you're going to want to run an illuminator.
Well, first of all, then I got to change that holographic sight because I need the buttons on the side.
You'll want the buttons on the side. You'll also want a night vision capable, but you
gave me that bootleg.
I feel like people.
You gave me that bootleg one. Doesn't have no. All right,
I gave you a cool one.
It is,
and I gave it.
Yeah,
that's the best.
Yeah, well, you can tell I'm spoiled. Britney Spears. So you can't
like
tell in black and white, but it's gray.
Well, I like how you were very clear on the fact that you're a user, not a buyer. Like,
there you go.
Because that's the argument we always have. I'll use all the shit I develop, but I ain't gonna buy any of that shit. So I got to look out for that guy.
I'm entitled to a certain level of entitlement. All right, so you guys are making these too?
Yes.
So what do you call this thing?
This is our I fucking suck at nameology. So this is our OGL, or on-gun laser. How easy is that, right? It started off
very army of you.
Yeah, it started off as just the product development code name for it, but I haven't been able to come up with anything better.
OGL, I like OG.
I love OG.
What you got, Thomas? Well, okay, you got poet tattooed across your knuckles. What you got? Put up or shut up, man. Come on.
Well, I'm still upset that Thomas didn't come up with something that was LBGTQ for the trigger. The LBGT by Q. Yeah, but I just couldn't come up with the words for each one because I thought that would have been the coolest thing to name your trigger. That damn it! I love how we play the blame game.
Yeah.
But in any
Easy
case,
to point fingers when they're not here.
Yeah, no shit, right? Next thing you know, it'll be your intern. But you got to do that after you fire him because he's your responsibility right now. So we used to do the at peel via Insight, and since we lost that as well, yeah. Since we lost that, said, well, I want to make our own laser, and especially because we're going with digital, and at the point of our technology right now, you need that illuminator. But I wanted to do something different and better because shit, why not, right? So this is our on-gun laser. This is the Gen 1. Gen 2 is already in development, and it's
Oh, so this one's useless. I can have this one.
No. Gen 1 is going to be what everybody in the world needs. Gen 2 is something that is more of a passion product for me. But Gen 1 is smaller and about the same weight, smaller footprint, same weight as an at peel, but we've increased the ergonomics and we've made a few changes that I think make this the premier on-gun laser. So number one, we went with a green visible laser instead of a red because, it's green, right? Throws better, it's easier for the eye to see, that kind of thing. We located our button very centrally so that when it's out on the forearm, it's really easy to reach, whether you go with your index finger
Don't
or
be
your thumb.
blind in the mother.
No, I don't have a battery in it, just to make sure. And I got blue screws in. So, and then we relocated the switch to the front end instead of cluttering up the top. And that gave me enough real estate to put this switch in. And this is your illuminator beam divergence. So I can go from a spotlight to a floodlight with my thumb, just moving it across. So inside a room, I got a big bright light. Outside, if the fight goes to the street, I got a spotlight.
When you said ergonomic changes, I felt like that was a total sales bullshit thing. But once you explain it and you see that, like, yeah, I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it makes it much easier to find the fire button. We use the standard crane connector and include the pressure pad. So you're totally set up. Runs on a single 1, 2, 3 battery.
Oh, good.
You've got your both of your Viz and your IR target designator or aiming laser are on the same optical bench. So you zero one, you've zeroed the other, and then your illuminator is on a separate optical bench. So you can, I like to shoot with my illuminator offset from my designator.
Why?
For long range, if it's on my bolt gun. Yeah. For me, it just makes it easier to look and then be able to put my dot there, because at longer distances, even though on this one I've changed the wavelength between the IR illuminator and the IR designator, so that even out to about 600 or 800, the luminance of the two is great enough that you'll always be able to see where your dot is. They won't wash out.
Okay.
But I've already played with this one enough to know I still like it offset. So we kept them on a separate optical bench because that makes sense for that. Price point is comparative to an at peel. So
what is that? I have no idea.
On the commercial version, which is FDA approved to be able to sell to civilians, because you have to send lasers through the FDA, and so
makes total sense.
Right. Total sense.
Food
right?
and drugs.
So,
totally.
And lasers.
Food, drugs, lasers, sharks.
So what we're looking at for the commercial version is a MSRP of $12.99.
Huh.
And then for the
okay, that's why I see all those Instagram hoes with these, because it's not.
It's
affordable.
not. It is, but you don't get the functionality that you get with this from an at peel. And then our real competitor is I would say the NGAL. The NGAL is a little bit smaller. It's
is that B. Myers?
No, it's L3.
Oh, L3. Yeah.
It's a little smaller than ours. It's a bit lighter than ours, but it's about $5,000.
Oh.
And they don't make a commercial version.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's
we're
many
big
dollars.
difference. Yes. And then when you come to the standard version of it, because it's higher power lasers and that kind of thing, the price point jumps up to about $15.99.
Well, what's the range for this with a laser?
Man, as far as the eye can see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Because I'm just wondering. I mean, for me,
it's a freaking laser.
I'm messing with your mic. Yeah, laser ring. Yeah, because I just think for like home defense, that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, well, and that's what's great about this illuminator. You know, this beam divergence illuminator.
Light 'em up.
Some of them have done it where they put a little screw in the back, and then on an at-peel standard, you rotate it through here. But nobody's come and made it this ergonomic and easy to use for you to be able to
All right.
adjust that beam divergence. So this is a phenomenal product. It'll be out hopefully in January. We'll go ahead and launch it, so you guys are seeing it absolute first.
Oh, that's cool.
These two right now, I've got angry people at quality because I stole them, and they can't start quality assurance testing to submit to the FDA until I get them back. So
FDA.
yeah, they'll be all right. But I wanted to show you guys because they're killer.
It's very nice.
Am I gonna feel it at the end of my gun? Am I gonna know it's there?
Well, I mean, if you do, just go to the gym. Like I don't know how
Coming from
fucking
old
strong
Hamp.
or weak you are. Like shit.
Okay, he
man,
weighs
I don't know.
$125.
Yeah,
What-
yeah. Well, I mean, you should feel it. It's not
Just mount it back
it's
next to your
not
Eotech.
there. Yeah, it's not obtrusive, but again, it's one of those things that it provides you with so much flexibility, and the advantages of it outweigh it. But you can always take it off and remount it when you need it.
So Thomas, if you have those goggles on, then you can, if it's totally dark, you can hit that illuminator. It puts light out. You can see what's in your hallway, and then you got that laser, so you don't have to shoulder the gun. You
can just shoot from the hip. You can shoot from wherever.
You get the home invasion ERS.
Yep.
Bust them up with it.
It's a tedious way to go.
Home invasion, right?
Yeah.
Somebody busts into my house at night. I have to go get my goggles.
No, that.
You got them next to the
Wait
bed,
a minute, that
man.
shit's not by the bed on a helmet.
You're not wearing those when you
What
sleep.
the fuck are you doing? Like,
The laser, put it
how
on.
are you living?
Yeah.
I thought that's what everybody did, dude.
He's living wrong.
All I got to do is step out of bed and I'm in full armor, helmet, goggles, lasers on. I turn all my shit on before I go to bed, just in case.
The good part about it is all the time you spend taking all that stuff out and putting it on is saved by that ergonomic switch.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
right.
go. You don't
But,
have to hunt for shit.
But
That's a
also,
great
you guys
point.
just went on that pig hunt in Texas, and so you see, like being able to see at night and have those lasers and everything.
It's
It's
a choke.
It's efficiency, Thomas. You know, like you want me to buy that stuff so you can edit the podcast while we're
Yeah.
doing it. Efficiency.
If you want to
efficiency.
own the night, you need them both.
On the
If
night.
you want to own the night. You need 'em both. There you
My
go.
man is dropping
Dude,
taglines like
That's-
bad habits.
That's your marketing motto right there.
Jesus.
With
How's this
that-
man
with
not
those
marketing?
things-
I'm not a
Own the
marketing guy, man.
Mhm.
I'm not a
You
marketing
are
guy.
so the marketing guy.
You know, it's a great marketing line that we have trademark we don't use as the official sponsor of the Good Guys,
Yeah,
right?
that is a good one.
That is very good.
It's really good.
I like that. It's very good. Well, what else? You gonna pull anything else out? Well,
I
you gonna whip it out, or
Fuck
what are we
me.
doing?
It's not enough. Like,
Well, I don't know. You kept pulling stuff out. I'm just like impressed because normally you whip it out. I'm like, man, that's average.
that's bullshit, and you know it.
And that point is to parlay into, obviously, when we acquired the company, we had a goal to diversify our product portfolio.
Yeah.
Come out with a bunch of new products. Takes time. We're
Yeah.
reducing the time to market as we're starting on new products, so it's not going to take 18 months anymore. We're going to get that down. But we've got a whole bunch of products pent up that we're getting ready to release. We also have our pistol sight that we released. We have a couple more in the queue there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you showed me, but
It's
I think
shipping
off
now.
screen
Yeah.
last time.
Yep.
But in terms of the Element 115 Skunk Works, where you see us going with this digital technology is we've always been seen as the tactical guys. Where I want to be in 5 years is the digital guys.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, if digital is the future, I mean, investing in it. But yeah, I mean, it is a difficult thing for like a business leader because you need to go ahead and establish some position in
Yep.
the current marketplace.
Yep. And then the hard part is you need an ecosystem
Yeah.
to make it go. But so
Yeah.
you've got to
All
start
these
with that one
buzzwords.
and then move forward. Like, well, I need a digital signal to broadcast it. Well, where am I broadcasting?
You read a lot, man.
Right.
You're impressive, Ham. I mean, even after all these years, you're still impressive. Hey, so you don't do marketing. So give a shout out to who did this marketing?
So
that is wonderful.
That is our digital marketing expert and swag guru, Jake Fambro. He killed it with
digital. That one. Yeah, this is cool.
He's got
Makes
another
a lot of
one with
sense.
Ray Charles with a pair of PBS 31s on. That's
pretty
a sweet
good.
one.
I love Ray Charles.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's insulting if you're blind, but I like it.
It's a cool looking shirt, but I prefer my Trash Panda with his tubes on.
That's super cool.
And our trademark tagline, Carpe Noctem. Mm-hmm. So seize the night, baby.
Seems like something you would come up with. It's pretty cool.
I wish. I can't take credit for that.
Well, I want to give a shout out to, I don't remember who did this, but we have such back orders. This is the way. Like, people, when is it available? And so I would say ETA or Margaret at livecuredie.com, and it's like no such email address. And then sometimes even get people to respond to me, that's not a real email address. You're an asshole. Yeah, so S for Margaret.
So you needed a fake email address to know that you were an asshole? Have they not paid any attention?
No, I think they're slow. I don't think it was.
So I got to know about the shoes.
Wait, let's get to them. So my man Todd Askins, so Tactical Distributors. So Unpossible 15 get you 15% off. So these Ultima, but which I've worn, they're cool, they're nice. I don't know what that is. What was that? Tiger Stripe or Brushstroke or Desert Tiger? I don't know what it is. But these were a limited thing. I don't know what is
Isn't that what you call fucking in the woods? Brushstroke
in the hot tub.
Oh, in the hot tub.
So, Logan Pace. Well, he sent us this nice bottle that was full.
No, it wasn't. Next time,
Last
put the
night?
liquor in it. Don't
this Blanton's. Oh my God, Logan, thank you so much.
Yeah, Logan, thanks a bunch.
Yeah,
I haven't had Blanton's in like a year because I can't find it. You're the man.
Cause you need some hookups.
Yeah.
I forget my man's name, but he was funny and he drove across state lines to bring me this old man shot glass. That's cool. So this. Jackson Beeman.
Now
this kid was 15. He deconstructed some. I don't know. You'd be in the sneakers.
I'm not a sneaker
Aaron.
guy. Why you say that? Because I'm black. This is bullshit, man. What the fuck?
You're half black.
I'm
half black.
Nah,
we're equally black.
You're like, no.
Yeah, I just hide mine. You put yours on the outside.
Oh, you put yours on your cock? No.
Whoa.
I'm asking.
Whoa.
That's hidden, right? Nobody wants to see that shit.
Anyway, deconstructed these. They are the most plush leather in the entire world. He did the Q-Tang, which we can't use that anymore, according to Christine. Shout out to General Counsel, like, asshole. And this blue alligator. I mean, have you seen?
That's a beautiful pair of shoes.
That kid is 15 years old. He's super into fashion. He's doing these sneakers.
You're gonna have to wear those though. You do realize that, right?
But I want him to know how much I appreciate them, and I'm gonna wear them. But it's when I get like, I don't know, People Magazine Sexiest Man of the Year.
So you're not gonna wear them. Is that what you're saying?
My first date with your lady, I'm wearing these. All right,
tomorrow night.
So
you wear them when they make a movie of your life. As long as I can be your stunt double.
Stunt double. Woo! You better start stretching. Because we go all out here at the Brigham household. So as you guys saw earlier, I'd be So we got
shout out to him.
acrobatics.
He killed those.
Oh, didn't he do a great job?
Man, that is over the top.
They are perfect. They're phenomenal. God, and the kid was like a fan of the company, and I just wish him so much success. And this is like his passion. He loves guns as well, and that's like a family thing for him. But he came up with his family and built like a honey badger and some stuff, and he sent me these shoes as a thank you. And
wow,
and I love them. But it is actually probably, we've gotten several good gifts here. We have the arcade game over there. We have this kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the background here, but these are probably top of the list. And you're right. I don't know what the occasion's going to be.
Yeah.
It might be, I don't know, when one of my daughters gets married or something. But it's going to have to be special to me. I am pimping these things.
Yeah.
It could be a hunt. If we go on a narwhal hunt and yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wearing these, but it's going to be something that's special to me. So anyway, Matt,
hopefully
thank you
it's
so
a
much
banquet.
for coming.
Thank
Aaron,
you for having us.
It's always interesting.
Yeah. Fuck you.
I'm so excited for you guys. No shit. I'm glad to see it be a company of the people again, not some big bullshit. You guys doing new products, seeking out innovation, like taking care of the customers. I don't know. I'm excited. Night vision and thermal. I mean, it's kind of the future.
It is, and so many other things we didn't talk about. We've got the next generation holography. We've got so much shit in the shoe, dude. So we got to save something to come back on, right?
Yeah, that's
maybe
cool.
you'll welcome us back one day.
Yeah, well, I'm coming to your podcast, Aaron.
Okay.
Like
well,
if any person needs a podcast in this industry, it'd be your ass.
Wear those shoes.
You do it. And I'll
that
wear
way
the
we
shoes.
can talk about it.
It'll
All
be but
and a tux. Because you got to set those off, man. You show up with those in cargo shorts, you're just fucking wrong.
Well, I normally look like a bum, but I got
do.
that Oxford tux. I got that it's the last handmade suit in America. It's where George Bush and Prince used to buy his suits. I got one.
Okay, but
I got
that
one.
with those shoes.
Oh,
man,
woo!
you fucking set it
That'll
off.
be
dude.
a dry pair of panties in the county. All right. Well, thank you guys.